The city is quiet under a crescent moon. Lights from a train station cast a gentle glow as people head home for the night. A young man in a suit emerges from the station, his shoulders slumped. He lets out a deep sigh, the weight of a long workday pressing down on him. He walks along the crowded street, observing the happy Friday night crowds. Amidst the cheerful bustle, a profound and heavy sense of loneliness washes over him. Arriving at his simple apartment, he reflects on a life spent working tirelessly since junior high, a life that left no room for friends or love as he entered his 30s. He knows that in this solitary existence, there is only one small joy he allows himself. He places a small dessert cup from the convenience store on his table. Sitting on the floor of his bare room, he thinks about how this one simple, discounted treat is the small pleasure that makes his lonely days just a little more bearable. He turns on the television, where a heartwarming show plays, depicting a mother encouraging her young son on his first errand. He sits alone in the quiet darkness of his room, the bright screen a stark reminder of the warmth he lacks in his own life. As he lifts a spoonful of dessert, his mind drifts to a simple, powerful thought: family. His mind flashes back to his own past, remembering that he is an orphan who has never known his family, a small boy curled up and utterly alone. He has always longed for the warmth of a family, a dream he feels is impossible given his meager earnings, and his fear that he doesn't even know how to love. The sadness becomes too much to bear. He decides to give up and go to sleep, the sweet treat forgotten. Suddenly, a sharp pain explodes in his chest. He gasps, clutching at his heart. His vision blurs. The world twists and distorts around him. He can't understand what's happening. Everything dissolves into a dizzying haze as he loses consciousness. He slowly begins to awaken, wondering if he'd simply fallen asleep and questioning what time it is, confused by the strange noises and the faces looking down at him. He tries to understand where he is, forcing himself to wake up, but his gaze falls upon his own hands. They are the tiny, chubby hands of a baby. With wide, terrified eyes, a pacifier in his mouth, the impossible thought hits him. Has he somehow been turned into a baby? He is now in a crib, looking up at a circle of smiling faces, a kind man and woman, 2 young children, and a maid, and realizes with stunning clarity that he has been given a second chance, reborn into a new family. A little girl's bright, curious eye peeks over the crib, her voice filled with excitement. The girl and a little boy, his new siblings, eagerly ask if this is their new little brother. The girl begs to hold him, but the boy complains that it isn't fair and he wants to be the first. His new mother smiles gently at the 2 children, telling them not to fight, and allows the girl, Hilda, to hold him first, though he silently worries if children can even carry a baby safely. Hilda holds him with surprising care, telling her brother, Sigurd, to watch her as she soothes him, and he finds himself feeling remarkably calm and safe in her arms. For a moment, she just looks down at him, her expression thoughtful and quiet. Then, she squeezes him in a powerful hug, declaring that she is his big sister and exclaiming just how cute he is, making his baby world spin with dizziness. Sigurd quickly scolds his sister for being too rough, demanding that she give him his turn to hold the new baby. Now, in his brother's arms, Sigurd smiles warmly and softly tells him that he is his big brother. He processes this new reality, thinking to himself that he now has a big sister named Hilda and a big brother named Sigurd. The 2 siblings now hold him together, excitedly chattering about all the fun they will have and the games they will play once he is old enough to join them. The man, his new father, chuckles warmly and tells the excited children that's enough for now. He smiles down at them, explaining that they are now the proud big brother and sister to the newest member of their family, Ares. He hears his new name for the first time, Ares. He wonders if that is truly who he is now. His mother softly remarks on what a lovely name it is, and the children happily agree. She holds him close, her eyes brimming with love as she thanks him for being born and whispers that she loves him. His tiny eye widens, reflecting his mother's radiant, loving face. A strange, warm feeling spreads through his entire being, as he realizes this is the very first time in his entire life that someone has told him they love him. Looking at the faces of his new family, his kind parents, his excited siblings, and the gentle maid, he feels a pleasant, ticklish warmth he has never known. His tiny hand wraps around his mother's finger, and he thinks that he could never have imagined a moment so full of love in his previous, lonely life. He wonders with a full heart if this wonderful, overwhelming feeling is what it means to truly have a family. Time passes, and Aries is now 3 years old, a cheerful toddler energetically exploring his home. In the years since his rebirth, he has learned something extraordinary about his new circumstances. He peeks out from behind a corner, explaining that he now lives in a world of swords and magic. He watches the family maid, Elise, use magic to effortlessly dry dishes, while his sister Hilda sits nearby, reflecting that even more surprising than magic is the simple fact of having a family. As he walks through the house, he marvels at how strange it feels to no longer be alone. Suddenly, his brother Sigurd playfully grabs him from behind, asking what he's up to. Sigurd lifts him up with a grin, declaring that he must be bored and insisting they go outside to play. Aries thinks about how his brother always makes time to play with him, even though he is supposed to be studying hard for his entrance exams to the night school. A small pang of guilt strikes him. He feels bad that everyone is always taking care of him while he can do nothing in return. Sigurd notices his little brother has gone quiet and asks what's wrong. Aries shyly asks if he isn't too busy to be playing right now. Laughing, Sigurd playfully ruffles his hair, telling him not to worry about such things because he plays with him simply because he wants to. Aries feels a bit guilty for worrying him and quietly apologizes, wishing he could do something to show his gratitude. Sigurd's playful demeanor fades, and he looks down at him with a serious expression. He then breaks into a grin, playfully squishing his little brother's cheeks and telling him he should be saying thank you, not sorry. He continues to gently pinch and play with his brother's face. Their sister Hilda suddenly appears, asking Sigurd if he should really be playing around at a time like this. Hilda reminds him about his upcoming class. Sigurd whines, asking if he can just play with Aries a little longer, but she firmly tells him to get ready while she watches their little brother. She gives him a light chop on the head to get her point across. Hilda gently cups Aries' face, telling Sigurd that she understands their brother is cute, but he needs to focus on his own responsibilities. She turns to Aries and asks him, knowing the answer, that he wouldn't want his big brother to push himself too hard, would he? Sigurd sighs in defeat, finally giving in to his sister's logic. He apologizes to Aries for cutting their playtime short, promises they will play again soon, and wishes him good luck on his own studies. The maid, Elise, watches the siblings' interaction with a calm, knowing expression. She suddenly has a brilliant idea, suggesting that perhaps all three of them could have an outdoor lesson together that afternoon. Aries' heart soars with excitement at the prospect of learning magic, a thrilling concept that feels like it's straight out of a fantasy story. He looks to the sky, his mind buzzing with anticipation for what he is about to witness. Outside, Hilda holds her hand out and calls upon the flames, and a ball of fire erupts in her palm. Aries gasps, his eyes wide with pure, unadulterated joy. "It's real magic!" Hilda proudly asks Elise what she thinks of her progress, and the maid praises her, noting how skilled she has become. Watching her, Aries feels a surge of pride, thinking how his sister's amazing abilities will surely help protect their family's land in the future. Sigurd adds that the number of magical beasts has been increasing lately, keeping their father very busy hunting them down. Aries' eyes widen in understanding, finally grasping the dangers his family faces every day. A powerful thought sparks within him. If he could use magic, he could finally do something to help his family too. He eagerly turns to his siblings and asks them how he can become able to use magic. Hilda, Sigurd, and Elise all look at him, surprised by his sudden and passionate question. At dinner that night, Hilda excitedly recounts the story to their father, telling him how adorable Aries was when he declared his desire to learn magic. Their father, Gray, smiles warmly at his youngest son and tells him he's sure he will become a great wizard someday. Their mother, Sheila, gently chides her husband, playfully calling him a doting parent for being so proud. Gray's attention then turns completely to his youngest son. He asks Aries a simple but important question. Why does he want to use magic so badly? Surrounded by the warmth of his new family, Aries confesses that he feels useless because everyone takes care of him, and he wants to learn magic so that he can finally give something back. His parents look at him with soft, loving eyes, deeply touched by his selfless desire. They tell him what a kind child he is and reassure him that he doesn't need to worry about such things. But Aries still feels a deep sadness. convinced he's the only one in the family who doesn't contribute. His father senses his son's powerful resolve and declares that since he feels so strongly, it is time for him to undergo the ceremony. When Ares asks what that is, his father explains it's a special ritual to determine one's magical talent and elemental attribute. Ares's face lights up with pure gratitude, and he thanks his father for understanding his feelings. He hopes with all his heart that the ritual will be a success, finally giving him the chance to repay the kindness his family has shown him. They arrive at a grand church-like building for the ceremony. A priest greets them, and his father gently urges him forward, instructing him to place his hand on a large, glowing crystal orb. As they wait, Hilda explains to Sigurd that the crystal will glow with a color representing one's magical attribute, such as fire, water, or earth. Ares nervously reaches out his tiny hand and touches the surface of the crystal. A brilliant light erupts from the orb, and powerful magical energy swirls around him. He sees the energy as a vibrant blue, and he realizes with a jolt of excitement that this must be his magic, water. However, the priest and nuns who are overseeing the ritual simply stare, their faces frozen in stunned, unsettling silence. Ares looks at their strange reactions, and a knot of fear begins to form in his stomach. The priest formally congratulates him, noting how rare it is to have magic at all, but his stiff expression makes Ares feel deeply uneasy. He can't shake the feeling that something has gone horribly wrong. His father gently pats his head, attempting to soothe his worries. He smiles and reassures him, saying that gentle water magic is a perfect fit for a kind boy like Ares. His father then cheerfully suggests they hurry home to share the wonderful news, insisting that everyone will be thrilled for him. But as they turn to leave, his father's smile vanishes, replaced by a look of deep concern. He glances back one last time at the crystal orb, which now bears a small but distinct crack on its surface. Back home, the family gathers to welcome them, and Hilda eagerly asks how the ceremony went. Ares looks down at the floor in shame and apologizes, admitting that he received water magic. Hilda stares at him, confused as to why he is sorry. He looks up at her, his eyes filled with worry, unable to understand why he should be proud. But his mother, Sheila, beams with genuine happiness, revealing a wonderful secret. She has water magic too, just like him. She lifts his chin gently and tells him that no matter what others may say about water magic, he is who he is, and that is all that matters to her. A wave of immense relief washes over him, and he finally understands that his family accepts him unconditionally. That night, the family home is peaceful under a sky full of stars. Ares lies in bed, unable to sleep. Despite his family's loving acceptance, the strange and fearful reaction of the church officials still haunts him. He replays his mother's words in his mind, wondering what she meant when she said people talk about water magic in various ways. He decides then and there that he must learn everything he can about his powers so he is never caught unprepared. Seeing Elise in his room, he realizes she might have the answers he's looking for. Elise explains that water magic is not considered powerful for combat and is less effective for healing than light magic, earning it the dismissive nickname miscellaneous magic. However, she adds with a gentle smile that if he can truly master it, it holds the potential to do anything. She looks at him with confidence, telling him she is certain that a smart boy like him can achieve that mastery. Filled with a new and powerful determination, Ares grabs a stack of books and runs off, ready to begin his research at once. He sits on the floor, surrounded by open books, frustrated by how difficult the ancient texts are to understand but still burning with the desire to master his magic. He gazes out the window, his mind working furiously. The sky is overcast above the dense forest line. He ventures into the woods to practice, pointing a stick at his target and managing to shoot a weak splash of water. He succeeded in casting the spell, but the force is so weak that it fails to even break a simple twig. He knows his power is low, but he holds on to Elise's encouraging words, believing that with enough training, his magic will one day be useful. As the sun begins to set, he decides to head home, vowing to return tomorrow and try even harder. He hurries back toward the house, needing to return a book to his father's room. As he nears the door, he hears voices from inside, and they are talking about him. Peeking through the crack, he sees his parents and Elise in a serious discussion. He overhears Elise saying that because of his water magic, things might not stay peaceful for him. His eyes widen in shock and fear. Then he hears his father's voice, cold and final, saying it would be better to get him out of the house soon. The words hit him like a physical blow. He stumbles back. He turns and flees down the hallway, his heart pounding in his ears. Terrible, spiraling thoughts flood his mind. Am I useless? Do they want to get rid of me because my magic is weak? Blinded by panic, he crashes right into someone. It's Sigurd, who asks him what he's doing running in such a hurry. Ares looks up at his brother, his face a mask of pale terror. Sigurd looks down at him, confused by his little brother's strange behavior. He can immediately tell something is terribly wrong and asks Ares what happened. Ares quickly looks away, unable to meet his brother's concerned gaze. He forces a shaky smile and insists that nothing is wrong at all. As he turns to leave, he thinks with a heart full of fear that he can't even bear to look his kind brother in the face right now. He reaches his room, breathless and shaking. He slides to the floor, clutching the book to his chest, his mind racing. His father's cruel words echo in his mind again and again, and he desperately wonders why this is happening. The crushing loneliness of his past life returns, and he's terrified that he's done something to make his new family abandon him, leaving him all alone once more. A powerful resolve surges through him. He will not let that happen. He sits up, his eyes wide with a desperate plan. He must become useful. He must find a way to prove his worth, because he will never, ever be alone again. As he clutches the book, determined to find answers, a soft knock sounds at his door. He looks up to see Sigurd and Hilda peering into his room, their faces etched with worry. They explain they came to check on him because he looked so pale earlier. He remains silent, his face shrouded in the darkness of his room. His siblings gently push the door open, stepping inside. Ares looks up at them, forcing a smile and asking if something is wrong. They look at each other, confused by his strained attempt to act normal. He apologizes again for making them worry. Hilda tells him gently that whatever is wrong, he can always talk to them. He buries his face in her dress, his voice muffled as he agrees. After they leave, he is consumed by guilt, feeling he is taking advantage of their kindness and only causing them trouble. He feels he doesn't deserve to be here, but his desire to stay with this loving family is stronger than ever. He looks out at the sky, his resolve hardening. He knows what he has to do. He returns to the forest, practicing his magic over and over, but the small splashes of water are still too weak to make a difference. He pants from exhaustion, frustrated that it is still not enough. He stares at a simple tree branch, his failure to break it a symbol of his uselessness. He pushes himself to his absolute limit, driven by the fear that if he can't become stronger, he will lose everything. Days later, Sigurd finds him walking down the hall and calls out his name. Sigurd confronts him, saying he knows something is wrong because Ares has been avoiding him and refusing to play. Ares tries to brush it off, claiming he just doesn't want to interfere with his brother's important studies. Fed up with the excuses, Sigurd grabs him by the collar, demanding to know what he's hiding. Hilda rushes over to intervene, telling them to stop and explaining that the entire family is worried about him. She tries to calm Sigurd, telling him she understands his frustration, but getting angry won't help. Ares hangs his head in shame, believing he has once again caused trouble and made his family angry. Hilda gently explains to Ares that if he keeps his feelings bottled up, his brother will only continue to worry and grow frustrated. Overwhelmed, Ares mutters an apology and runs away from them both. Sigurd and Hilda are left standing in the hallway, watching him go with expressions of deep concern. Their mother, Sheila, stands by a window, her heart aching for her troubled son. She turns at the sound of a knock on her door. She opens it, a startled look on her face, asking what's happened. Ares stands before her and declares with all his heart that he wants to be helpful to their family. He continues speaking, pouring out his desperate feelings. He confesses his deepest fears. He tells her he doesn't want to cause any more worry or trouble for them. He remembers pushing his kind brother away. The terrifying memory of being a lonely orphan resurfaces. His voice trembles as he admits his greatest fear is being alone. He sees the smiling faces of his beloved family in his mind. He feels the warmth and love they have given him. He thinks of each of them, his father, mother, brother, sister, and Elise. He declares with all his being that he wants to stay with them forever. In that moment of pure emotional release, his magical energy surges uncontrollably. But his small body can't handle the strain. He stumbles and falls. He has completely run out of mana, leaving him weak and unable to move. He tries to hide in the tall grass, feeling vulnerable and afraid. He suddenly recalls his siblings talking about monsters. A small fox-like creature appears before him. In a horrifying flash, the creature transforms, lunging at him with monstrous fangs and claws. Lying helpless on the ground, his only thought is that he must get home to apologize to his family. An image of them all smiling together fills his mind. He desperately wants to see them one last time. As the monster closes in, he thinks only of his family. He sees the monster's reflection in his eye and knows it's too late. With his final ounce of strength, he calls out for his magic one last time. Suddenly, a powerful blast of water slams into the monster. He lies on the ground, his vision fading, as gentle drops of water float around him. A beautiful figure appears through the haze, surrounded by swirling water. It's his mother, Sheila, and she asks if he is all right. He looks up in disbelief, barely able to speak as he asks why she is here. She explains with a gentle voice that his brother and sister told her what happened, her magic glowing like stars in the dark forest. Nearby, the once fearsome monster lies defeated on the ground. His mother stands over him, a vision of grace and power, her water magic swirling protectively around them. In the distance, he hears panicked voices. It's Hilda and Sigurd running through the woods, calling his name. His father and Elise arrive moments later, their faces a mixture of relief and sorrow. His father asks him why he would do something so reckless. Hilda demands to know what he was thinking, going into the dangerous woods by himself at night. Surrounded by his worried family, Sigurd feels a fresh wave of shame, thinking he's caused them all trouble yet again. With tears in his eyes, Ares apologizes for being so useless. His father kneels beside him and gently asks what drove him to do something so dangerous. Finally, Ares breaks down, crying that he just wants to stay with them. His father's eyes widen as he begins to understand. Ares sobs as he explains that he overheard their conversation and thought they were going to send him away. He tells them he believed that if he could just become useful, they would let him stay with them forever. But he cries that his magic is weak and apologizes for being so useless. His father finally realizes the terrible misunderstanding. Ares had heard them talking. He clenches his fist, furious with himself for causing his son so much pain. He pulls his crying son into a tight, protective hug. He closes his eyes and whispers a heartfelt apology to Ares. He explains that it was all a misunderstanding and swears he would never, ever kick him out of their home. Ares looks up, his tear-streaked face full of confusion. His father gently explains they were actually discussing sending him to school early to help develop his amazing magical talent. Ares' eyes widen with hope as he asks if that means he can really stay. His father smiles warmly and promises him that of course he can. His mother extends her hand, her voice soft as she tells him he must be exhausted from working so hard and that it's time for them all to go home together. Ares' eyes fill with fresh tears, but this time they are tears of pure joy. He looks up at his family with the biggest, happiest smile and joyfully agrees. Back inside their warm home, the family reflects on the night's events. The father takes full responsibility, admitting he was away too often and failed to see his son's distress. But his wife and Elise insist that they all share the blame for the misunderstanding. His mother laments that in trying to protect him from a difficult truth, they accidentally wounded his heart far more deeply. The father recalls the crack he saw in the crystal. He realizes now that the best way to protect Ares is to help him become stronger. He turns to Elise, entrusting her with his son's training. She solemnly accepts. A new day begins. Ares shyly approaches Elise with a question. Suddenly, he finds himself seated at a desk between his cheerful brother and sister, who tell him it's time to get fired up and start studying. Elise explains that from now on, his magic and academic lessons will be much more thorough, and she has enlisted his siblings to help teach him. Standing before a large map, Elise begins their first lesson, the geography and history of their home, the Nizal territory. She explains that their land, ruled by their father, Baron Missile, is a warm territory on the border of the Orleans Empire. When Ares asks if it snows, Elise reveals a surprising fact. No one on their entire continent has ever seen snow before. Ares is fascinated to learn that ice and snow are completely foreign concepts in this world. Elise points out that while the warm climate seems ideal for farming, their territory is actually not very wealthy. Ares thinks about their simple meals and realizes it's because their land lacks valuable resources and their farming techniques are not very advanced. A new determination fills him. He summons a ball of water into his hand, wondering if he can use his unique magic to help the farms. Elise's eyes widen in shock. She just saw him cast magic without an incantation. She quickly composes herself, pretending she didn't see anything unusual, but she can't let it go. She asks him if he just skipped the magic words to cast that spell, and a nervous Ares admits that he did. Intrigued, Elise tells him to come outside. She wants him to perform the spell again, without chanting, and this time to use his full power. Ares stands outside and unleashes his magic. A massive torrent of water, far more powerful than before, erupts from his hands. Elise is astonished. She theorizes that casting without words is more efficient, allowing for a much greater volume of water and revealing his immense magical potential. Ares asks how he did, noting that the spell felt much smoother and more powerful this time. Elise explains her theory. Now that his deep emotional stress has been relieved, his magic is no longer blocked and can flow freely, making it stronger than ever. Hilda and Sigurd suddenly appear with decorative fans, cheering for their amazing little brother, as Elise looks on with pride. She tells him that from now on they will all work hard together to help him study magic, and a happy Ares readily agrees. Sigurd abruptly remembers his own duties, exclaiming that he was supposed to be helping their father hunt monsters. He waves a cheerful goodbye to Ares and dashes off. Ares watches him go, feeling a renewed desire to become strong enough to help his family, just like his brother. Hilda comes over and playfully messes up his hair. She jokingly asks if he was thinking about doing something reckless again. He apologizes, but she tells him there's no need. She understands that his actions come from his deep love for their family. A mischievous smile spreads across her face as she gets an idea and asks Ares if he would be willing to help her with something. Ares's face lights up at the chance to finally be useful. He eagerly agrees to help with anything she needs. Hilda leads him into her room, which is filled with packed bags and a large suitcase. A school satchel sits on a nearby chair. An open suitcase is overflowing with books and clothes for a long journey. It dawns on Ares with a pang of sadness that his sister is preparing to leave for the royal capital. He feels a wave of loneliness at the thought of her leaving, but he shakes his head, steeling himself. He cannot be sad now. His sister asked for his help, and he will not let her down. Hilda calls his name, her voice cheerful. She holds up 2 beautiful dresses and asks him to help her choose which clothes to take with her. They spend the afternoon in a joyful fashion show, with Hilda trying on various outfits and even playfully putting a dress and bow on a versed Ares. He tells her she looks adorable in all of the dresses. He points to a checkered dress, saying it's the perfect one for her because it matches her bright and cheerful personality. Hilda takes the dress and looks at it thoughtfully. She hugs it close to her heart, thinking that it will remind her of Ares while she is far away and give her the strength to do her best at school. She turns to him with a brilliant smile and thanks him for his help. He beams, blushing with happiness, and tells her she is welcome. The time for goodbyes arrives all too quickly. The entire family gathers outside to see Hilda off. Ares looks up at his sister, his heart heavy with her impending departure. Hilda, wearing the dress he chose, tells him not to make such a sad face and points out that even Sigurd is about to cry. She gives him a reassuring smile and promises to come back home to visit as often as she can. Ares tries his hardest to hold back his tears, his face flushed with emotion. Hilda gently teases Sigurd, reminding him that he's the older brother and needs to be strong. But her own eyes fill with tears as she admits how sad she is to leave, begging them both not to cry. Ares points out that his big brother is crying too, as Sigurd tries and fails to hide his tears. In a moment of shared sadness, the 3 siblings pull each other into a tight, tearful hug, while their parents and Elise watch with loving smiles. Their father tells Hilda to take care of herself and jokingly warns her to bring any potential boyfriends home for his stern approval. Hilda laughs through her tears and promises to study hard and practice her magic so she can return even stronger. Ares and Sigurd look on, their expressions filled with pride for their departing sister. Sigurd winks, declaring he will become strong enough to surpass her while she's away, and Ares nods in agreement. Hilda smiles, her heart full of love for her wonderful family. She climbs into the carriage and waves one last time as she sets off on her new adventure. The family waves back with tears and smiles, wishing her a safe journey. Ares wipes a tear from his eye, watching the carriage disappear. He makes a silent vow to himself. He too will become stronger, strong enough to protect his sister and everyone he loves. The carriage travels down the long road, carrying Hilda away from her home and toward her future. Inside, she looks out the window, admitting to herself that she is a little scared and worried about fitting in at her new school. She clutches the collar of the checkered dress he chose for her, drawing strength from the precious memory. She closes her eyes and makes her own vow. She will become stronger so that she can always protect her precious little brother. The memory of his happy smile gives her the courage she needs to face whatever lies ahead. Several months later, Ares is lying on the floor, exhausted from his training, thinking about how much he misses his sister. He lies curled up in her empty room. He knows from her letters that she's doing well, but that doesn't stop him from feeling lonely every single day. Sigurd bursts into the room, surprised to find him there, and asks what he's doing in their sister's room. Ares mumbles from the floor that he was just thinking about her for a moment. He quickly sits up, forcing a bright smile as he insists he's fine now, though Sigurd looks at him with doubt. Ares starts to get up, saying he needs to get back to his studies. But Sigurd has a much better idea and excitedly suggests they go outside instead. He points out that they've been cooped up studying all day and proposes a trip into town for a change of scenery. A thought occurs to him, and he asks Ares if he's ever even been to the town before. Ares's face lights up with pure excitement at the idea. His brother gently pats his head, happy to see him cheer up. Sigurd smiles, relieved that his plan worked and that his little brother is finally looking happy again. He tells Ares to come on, and they'll go ask Elise for permission right away. Elise considers their request and proposes they turn the trip into a field lesson to show Ares around their family's territory. She adds that she's sure Sigurd is getting tired of his lectures anyway, and with that, she tells the two excited boys to go get ready. They arrive in the bustling town square, a charming place with a fountain and neat rows of houses. Holding his brother's hand, Ares looks around in wonder at all the people. Elise gently reminds him to stay close so he doesn't get lost in the crowd. He is fascinated by the many shops and the surprising number of beast people walking among the villagers. Elise explains this is the territory's only commercial street, where everyone comes to shop and relax. Ares spots a shop window filled with colorful, glittering stones and curiously asks what kind of store it is. When he asks what the stones are, Sigurd explains that it is a magic stone shop. Sigurd buys a small, glowing stone from the friendly shopkeeper as a demonstration for his brother. He hands the stone to Ares and instructs him on how to use it. As Ares holds the stone, it glows brightly in his hand, filling him with a warm, tingling sensation. Sigurd explains that magic stones allow even people without innate magical ability, like himself, to use a form of magic. He adds that since most magic users are limited to one element, adventurers often carry stones to use different types of magic when needed. He glances at Elise for confirmation of his lesson, and she nods in agreement. Elise adds another fascinating piece of information, explaining that there are extremely rare individuals known as doubles who are born with two magical attributes. Ares listens intently, captivated by the new and exciting details of this magical world. Sigurd sheepishly admits he had forgotten about doubles, but Elise compliments him on his simple and easy-to-understand explanation. Elise tells Sigurd he can be Ares's teacher for the day. Ares cheers for Teacher Sigurd, and his brother puffs out his chest with pride. Sigurd then realizes something important and asks his little brother if he has a weapon yet. They soon arrive at a weapon shop, its sign proudly displaying a large, shining sword. The shopkeeper warmly greets Sigurd by name, welcoming the young master. An old man in the shop thanks Sigurd for his help the other day, but Sigurd humbly brushes it off, saying he was just assisting his father. He confidently tells the man to rely on him in the future, as he will one day be the lord of this territory. Ares looks at his brother with pure admiration, amazed by his maturity and sense of responsibility. The shopkeeper asks who the cute little boy is. Sigurd proudly introduces Ares and explains they are here to find a weapon for him. Ares leaves the shop with a brand new wooden sword, happily waving goodbye to the kind shopkeeper. As they walk through the town, Ares sees how warmly all the villagers, including the beast people, greet his brother. Sigurd returns their greetings with a kind and genuine smile. Ares's heart swells with pride as he watches his beloved older brother. Later, they rest on a bench eating snacks. Sigurd apologizes for getting his brother mixed up in his lordly duties, but Ares insists he was amazing, and that the people will surely rely on him. He then adds with determination that when that day comes, he will be there to help his brother. Sigurd looks at his little brother, his heart touched by the sincere promise. He smiles and gently wipes a crumb from Ares's cheek. He thinks to himself that a future with Ares by his side doesn't sound bad at all. Ares senses his brother's quiet, thoughtful mood. Suddenly, Sigurd gets another idea. He points excitedly, telling Ares their mother's workplace is nearby and they should go for a surprise visit. Ares walks alongside them, his new sword at his side, wondering what kind of work his mother does. They arrive at a large, beautiful mansion that looks more like a grand estate than a workplace. Their mother, Sheila, greets them at the door with a welcoming smile, dressed in a simple apron and headscarf. Elise apologizes for the unannounced visit, explaining their tour of the territory. Sheila thanks her for bringing them. Sheila smiles and explains that this place is a treatment center where she works. She tells them it's a special facility that not only heals the injured, but also provides a safe home for orphans, exiles, and anyone else in need of protection. Ares holds his brother's hand, his heart aching with a profound realization. His mother's job is to care for people who are alone, just like he used to be. A nun hurries over, and Sheila immediately understands she is needed for a patient. She pauses for a moment, thinking it would be a good opportunity for her sons. She decides to show them what her work is really like, and invites them to come with her. They enter a room where a large man, Rand, sits with his legs heavily bandaged. He tells Sheila his injury isn't too serious. He notices the boys and asks if this is the young master. Sheila proudly introduces Ares as her second son. Ares politely introduces himself, and the man smiles, saying his name is Rand. Sigurd leans in and whispers that Rand is one of their father's hunting companions. Sheila asks Rand if he would mind letting her sons observe her healing magic. He happily agrees, and Ares leans in, eager to see it for the first time. She tells her sons to watch closely as she prepares to treat Rand's injuries. She closes her eyes and chants softly, calling upon the serene power of water to mend his wounds. With a final word, heal, a gentle, glowing light from her hands envelops Rand's legs. Ares watches in amazement as the deep wounds begin to close right before his eyes. He exclaims that his mother is incredible. She tells Ares that since he shares her water attribute, he too will be able to perform such healing one day. Rand says he looks forward to it, and Ares nods eagerly. As they leave, Sheila thanks Rand for his patience. He insists that he should be the one thanking her. Sigurd explains that skilled fighters like Rand are a valuable and rare resource for protecting their territory. Sheila dismisses the complicated topic, suggesting they simply enjoy the rest of their day. She gives Sigurd a meaningful look, and he understands. Sigurd nods in acknowledgement to his mother. Ares takes his brother's hand, feeling safe and secure. As the sun sets, Elise and the two brothers walk home through a beautiful field of tall grass. Sigurd asks Ares if he enjoyed his trip to the town. Ares beams, exclaiming that it was a very fun day. He adds that he learned many new things and that the grilled skewers they ate were absolutely delicious. Sigurd looks at his happy little brother, a bittersweet expression on his face. He worries that as Ares grows older, he might forget this day, and even forget him, and silently hopes that he will always be remembered. Ares looks up at him, completely confused by his sudden sadness, and insists that he would never, ever forget his big brother. He puffs out his cheeks indignantly, promising he would never forget anyone in his family. Sigurd just tells him to calm down. Ares senses his brother is still feeling down. He thinks about how his family always cheers him up, and he realizes he wants to do the same for his brother. He knows that this time, it is his turn to be the one to offer comfort. With a huge, bright smile, Ares takes his brother's hand and pulls him forward, exclaiming that it's time to go back to their home. Sigurd looks down at his determined little brother, his eyes welling up with emotion. A single tear of happiness escapes as he smiles and agrees. Ares is overjoyed, thinking to himself that he's so glad he was able to make his brother laugh. The three of them continue their walk home as the sun sets, their family bond stronger than ever. A few years later, it is Sigurd's turn to leave for the capital. He waves goodbye, promising Ares that they will meet again as full-fledged adults. Ares cheers him on, boldly promising to learn 500 million spells by the time he gets back. His parents watch the scene with tears and smiles. His father proudly states, "This is what it means to be a man, while his mother teases that she expected Ares to cry. His father gives Sigurd some last-minute advice about the scary women from the capital. Sigurd laughs, then turns his attention back to his little brother. He pulls Ares into one last bone-crushing hug. The carriage driver calls out, letting him know it is time to depart. Sigurd reluctantly releases his brother and heads for the carriage. He turns and waves one last time, shouting farewell to his beloved family. Ares waves with all his might as the carriage pulls away, shouting for his big brother to have a safe trip. He stands there, holding his small wooden sword, watching until the carriage is out of sight. He clenches his fist, a new resolve settling within him. Back at his desk, Ares focuses on his lessons with Elise, more determined than ever to work hard and become as kind and strong as the family he loves so dearly. He remembers his mother's kindness, his sister's cheerfulness, and Elise's wisdom. He is determined to grow into a man they can all be proud of. He recalls his father's strength in teaching him how to wield a sword. He studies relentlessly, vowing to become as intelligent as Elise and as powerful as his father and brother. He opens a specific book, its title hinting at a new path about the application of offensive magic. He reads that the power of magic is directly linked to the strength of one's imagination, making him wonder about the limits of his own abilities. A revolutionary idea strikes him. If imagination controls magic's properties, then could he also change its temperature? He realizes this is an experiment he absolutely must try. The days and months fly by, filled with intense and dedicated training. Now 5 years old, Ares stands before his father, who asks if he is finally ready for his first real monster hunt. Dressed in a new red cape, Ares stands proudly in the forest, his wooden sword at his side, and declares with unshakable confidence that he is ready for anything. Years of training have led to this moment. Ares, now 5, concentrates, making rocks levitate with his magic as he prepares to show the fruits of his labor. With Elise watching from a distance, he stands before his targets, ready to begin the test. His eyes narrow with intense focus. He shouts, "Aqua Ball!" unleashing a barrage of powerful water blasts that shatter the levitating rocks to pieces. He clenches his fist in triumph. Elise looks on, impressed by the impeccable power and precision he has achieved with his water magic. He takes a moment to reflect. He has turned 5 and has trained relentlessly in both swordplay and magic every single day. He knows it is finally time to test his power in a real battle and prove that he can truly be of help to his family. With his father's next hunting mission scheduled for the following day, he resolves to ask to join them. He fully expects his father to refuse, telling him he is still far too young for such a dangerous task. But to his utter shock, his father simply smiles and agrees to let him come. Ares is stunned into silence, barely able to ask if he really, truly can come along, despite being only 5. His father explains that since he has shown such rapid improvement, gaining real combat experience is the next logical step in his training. He tells Ares to rest well and prepare for the morning. Overjoyed, Ares thanks him with a beaming smile. As Ares happily leaves the study, his father watches him go, a gentle smile on his face. But once alone, his expression turns grave and heavy with a hidden burden. He reaffirms his private vow to do everything in his power to protect that child. In the study, the parents and Elise discuss a letter. Sheila asks if it has finally arrived from him. Elise reports that the letter contains an apology and a request to meet with Ares in 2 weeks to discuss the future. Sheila clenches her fist, a desperate hope in her eyes, praying that things can still remain as they are. But Elise gently reminds her that the final decision is not theirs to make. Sheila looks away, pained. She knows it is their duty, but her heart wishes for another way. Elise quietly agrees, confessing that she, too, wishes for things to stay the same. The father calls them back to the present issue. He decides they must focus on what they can control, helping Ares become strong enough to face any path his destiny forces upon him. Sheila and Elise solemnly agree, promising to offer their full support. Without delay, he decides that Elise will also accompany Ares on the mission tomorrow to oversee his training. Their path is clear. They will do everything they can for that child, starting now. The next morning, Ares steps out of the carriage, shivering with cold and thrilling anticipation. They arrive at an enormous wooden wall guarded by a massive gate. His father announces this is the entrance to the unexplored forest. Ares stares up at the gate, completely in awe of its massive scale. His father explains that this wall is the only thing protecting their village from the monsters that live within the forest. He warns that while most nearby monsters are weak, powerful beasts sometimes emerge from the depths in search of prey. He tells Ares that he must never, for any reason, lower his guard. The boy nods, understanding the gravity of the situation. The group prepares to enter the dangerous woods, ready for the hunt to begin. Ares' eyes widen as he steps into the ancient forest. He is completely captivated by the deep, untouched wilderness surrounding him. He starts to run ahead in his excitement, but Elise sternly reminds him not to stray from the group. His father calls him over and points to a creature perched on a branch. He immediately recognizes the multi-tailed squirrel-like monster from years ago. His father explains that it's a territorial creature called a ratatosk, which will attack any perceived threat. Ares notices that the monster seems much smaller than he remembers it being. His father smiles and pats his head, gently explaining that it's because Ares himself has grown so much. Ares is touched by the simple, profound gesture of his father's affection. Elise watches them, her expression unreal but knowing. His father suggests they venture deeper into the woods, and Ares eagerly agrees. As they walk, Ares notices his father seems unusually happy and gentle today. Elise leans down and quietly explains that his father is simply overjoyed. She tells him that the master is happy to finally witness how much he has grown and to be able to fight alongside him. Realization dawns on Ares, and he feels a surge of pride, determined to show his father just how strong he has become. He looks at Elise, his eyes burning with this new resolve. She gives him a slight, encouraging smile in return. Noticing his father has walked ahead, Ares quickly runs to catch up. The three of them walk deeper into the forest, a united front ready for any challenge. Suddenly, they are stopped by a threatening rustle from the tall grass. His father draws his sword, sensing danger, and calmly announces that their targets have arrived. A pack of small, snarling green creatures emerges from the bushes. Goblins. In moments, they are completely surrounded by a horde of the creatures. Ares looks around, alarmed by the overwhelming number of enemies. Elise tells him to step back, but he protests, arguing it's too dangerous and they should retreat together. She calmly refuses and leaps forward, declaring that she will take the lead. To his astonishment, she pulls a handful of throwing knives from hidden compartments in her maid uniform. She moves like a blur, unleashing a storm of perfectly aimed blades. The knives find their marks with lethal precision, felling multiple goblins in an instant. She lands gracefully, surrounded by her fallen enemies. More goblins charge, undeterred by the display. Elise stands her ground and begins to cast a spell. She unleashes a twister, and a powerful whirlwind engulfs the remaining goblins, tossing them aside. Ares is speechless. He cannot believe the sheer power his quiet maid possesses. He had no idea she was such a formidable warrior. She turns to him, as calm as ever, and asks if he was paying attention. He can only stammer out a yes. Elise explains that even weak attacks can be effective if aimed at a vital point, a principle that applies to all forms of combat. Her eyes are sharp and focused, no longer those of a simple maid, but of a seasoned fighter. She proves her point by dispatching more goblins with skillful, precise strikes, showing him that technique can overcome a lack of raw power. Standing over the defeated monsters, she tells him it is now his turn to put her lessons into practice in a real battle. His father, who had been watching from the side, whistles in admiration, remarking that he didn't even get a chance to join in. But Elise ignores him and tells Ares that he will be the next to fight. After her incredible display, Ares feels completely intimidated. He turns to his father, about to protest, but then he sees two goblins sneaking up behind his father and screams out a warning. Without even turning completely, his father draws his sword in a single, fluid motion, dispatching both enemies before they can attack. He calmly sheaths his sword, noting that he must have overlooked a few. Ares stares at them both in awe, asking how they became so powerful. Elise playfully teases him, saying it's a secret. His father laughs and explains that his own skill comes from his past life as an adventurer. The word sparks a fire in Ares' eyes. He reveals that he traveled the world with his adventuring party, which included Ares' own mother. Ares is completely captivated by this revelation and begs his father to tell him more about their past. A faint image of a younger Gray and Sheila, alongside two other companions, flashes in his mind. The father snaps out of his reverie and apologizes for getting lost in memories. He reminds Ares that they are in a dangerous forest, and the rest of the story will have to wait for a safer time. Ares looks up at his father with shining eyes, declaring that he wants to be an adventurer just like him someday. He earnestly asks his father to continue teaching him everything he knows. His father looks down at him, his heart swelling with pride and love, and tells his son that his words have made him truly happy. He pats Ares's head, telling him that there is no doubt in his mind that he will grow into a remarkable man. Ares grins, asking if he really thinks so. The father smiles, filled with pride, thinking that Ares is his son, and he couldn't be happier. A sudden noise breaks the tender moment, and Elise quickly moves into a defensive stance. A lone goblin appears. His father tells Ares that this one is his to fight. The boy nervously agrees. Facing his first solo opponent, Ares takes a deep breath and reminds himself to stay calm, just as he did in practice. His magic begins to form, a bright light flashing in front of the startled goblin. He remembers Elise's lesson, takes aim, and focuses all his power on a single vital point. He unleashes his compressed water magic, shooting a powerful jet that hits the goblin with enough force to send it flying backward. His father and Elise watch from the sidelines, their faces etched with pure shock and amazement. Ares turns to them, his face beaming with excitement, and shouts that he did it. They are both speechless, marveling at how he managed to compress water magic into such a fine, powerful, and piercing line. They shower him with praise, calling him a genius with remarkable adaptability. Ares is relieved, though a bit embarrassed by their doting reaction. He feels a little shy that they were so surprised by this, as he still has many more ideas he wants to test in combat. But more than anything, he is overjoyed. He now knows for certain that his magic works, and he can finally be useful to his family. His celebration is cut short when his father suddenly shouts for him to fall back. He looks over and sees his father and Elise staring past him with expressions of alarm. A much larger, more muscular monster steps out from the trees. It's a hobgoblin. Just as Ares begins to feel the thrill of his first victory, a far stronger enemy appears. His father is stunned, wondering why such a powerful monster is in this part of the forest. He knows this opponent is far too dangerous for Ares to handle right now. He grips his sword, questioning his decision to bring his son here, a choice he made to help him grow strong enough to face his destiny. The menacing hobgoblin glares at them, ready to attack. Ares stares up at the massive creature, realizing it's on a completely different level from the goblins he just fought. He admits to himself that he's terrified, but he forces himself to be brave, knowing he can't afford to freeze up now. He stands his ground, his desire to be useful to his family overpowering his fear. His father looks at him with a serious expression and asks if he wants to fight it alone. Despite his fear, Ares meets his father's gaze with unwavering determination and declares, "Yes!" His eyes burn with resolve. His father sees his son's spirit and makes a decision. He tells Elise to fall back. She begins to protest, unwilling to leave the boy alone against such a foe. He acknowledges her anxiety, but he tells her that for now they must put their faith in Ares. Ares understands. This is more than a fight. It's a test. His father believes in him and is giving him a chance to prove himself. A fire ignites in his heart. He will not fail. He will live up to his father's expectations. He aims and fires another water shot. The blast strikes the hobgoblin squarely in the chest. Ares watches, his heart pounding, hoping his attack was effective. But the hobgoblin just smirks, completely unharmed. Ares stares in shock. His powerful magic had absolutely no effect. He realizes his attack isn't strong enough. He needs to compress it even more, but he hesitated for too long. His father screams his name in warning. He looks up in surprise just as the hobgoblin rushes forward. The monster brings its massive sword down, and Ares barely manages to block it with his small wooden sword. He is completely overwhelmed by the creature's immense strength. Before he can recover, the hobgoblin lands a brutal kick to his stomach. The impact sends him flying through the air. He crashes against a tree, dropping his precious wooden sword to the ground. The hobgoblin picks up the tiny sword. Ares watches in horror from the ground. With a cruel sneer, the monster snaps the sword in two. He stares at the broken pieces of the gift from his beloved brother. A memory of receiving the sword flashes through his mind. He will not let this monster take it. He points his finger, preparing another spell. The hobgoblin raises its own sword for a finishing blow. Ares fires another water shot, but this time he aims for the monster's hand. The unexpected attack forces the hobgoblin to drop its weapon. He sees his chance. By hitting a weaker spot, he made the monster lose its footing. He seizes the opportunity, unleashing a rapid barrage of water shots to keep it distracted. While the monster is stunned, he quickly gathers the broken pieces of his sword. He has his sword back. Now he will begin his counterattack. He stands ready, preparing to face the disarmed but still incredibly dangerous hobgoblin. But the monster recovers with shocking speed. His father and Elise cry out his name in warning. He ducks just in time, the monster's swipe grazing his cheek. He dodges another wild swing. He stumbles, the intense fight pushing him to his physical limits. He falls to his knees, panting for breath, using his broken sword to prop himself up. Elise turns to the father, her voice filled with worry, insisting that Ares is not ready for this. His father calls out, asking if he's all right. Ares weakly replies that he's fine, but he knows he can't keep this up. He needs to land a decisive blow, and soon. He slowly pushes himself to his feet and faces the monster once more. His father watches, his heart aching. Fearing he has pushed his son too far, too soon, he decides to step in, telling Ares he did his best and can leave the rest to him. But Ares tells his father to wait. Kneeling on the ground, he hears the concern in his father's voice and thinks of how he has always been the one who is protected. He knows he needs to be stronger. He will not be the one who is always protected anymore. He rises to his feet, his cape torn but his spirit unbroken. He declares that he wants to be the one who protects them, and begs them to just watch him. With a fierce grin, he promises that he is going to win. His father looks at his son, his expression a mixture of awe and pride. He sees the unbreakable will in his son's eyes and understands. He agrees to let him continue, telling him to show them the true strength he possesses. Ares faces the hobgoblin, his mind racing. What should he do? He knows he has to find a way to pierce its tough skin. There has to be something. His water magic and his sword were both useless, but then an idea begins to form. Water. What else can it do? He remembers Elise's lecture. On this continent, it never snows. A memory of his secret training flashes in his mind. He remembers practicing in secret, creating something no one in this world has ever seen. He recalls the shocked faces of his siblings when they saw ice for the first time. He realizes that the people and monsters of this world have no concept of ice. He knows what he must do. He needs more penetrating power. He begins to gather his magic, concentrating the mass into a single point. He focuses all of his water magic, and then he begins to rapidly cool it, compressing it further and further. The water freezes solid, forming into a long, sharp spear of pure, deadly ice. He pulls his arm back, ready to unleash his secret weapon. He throws the ice spear with all his might. He imagines something sharper than a sword, colder than anything this world has known, and commands it to freeze. His eyes burn with focus as he casts his new, original spell. Ice Lance! The spear of pure ice, a power completely unknown in this land, flies through the air and pierces the hobgoblin's chest. The powerful spear of ice, born from his desperation and knowledge of another world, strikes the hobgoblin directly in the chest. Ares watches, panting, as his unique and powerful spell finds its mark. He looks down at his hand, a strange and new sensation flowing through him. He wonders what this feeling is, realizing with a start that his water magic has actually frozen solid. His father's worried shout snaps him out of his daze. His father and Elise rush to his side, asking if he's hurt. Ares assures them that he's fine. Their attention then turns to the defeated monster, and they stare in utter disbelief. A massive, jagged spike of pure ice protrudes from the hobgoblin's chest. They are both completely speechless, unable to comprehend what they are seeing. His father finally turns to him, his voice filled with awe and confusion, and asks what he just did. Ares explains that since nothing else was working, he tried to imagine something sharper and tougher, though he admits he was acting mostly on instinct. He looks at the frozen monster and concludes that what he created must be ice magic. His father is baffled, demanding to know how he could possibly use ice magic when his element is water. Ares looks down, unable to give a clear explanation. saying he was too focused to remember the exact details. He tries his best to explain, recalling something he read in a book from his past life about water turning to ice when cooled, and how he just imagined that as he cast the spell. He finishes lamely, admitting that somehow it just worked, leaving his father and Elise staring at him in stunned silence. His father points out the most unbelievable part of all. Ares has never even seen ice before in this world. The two adults exchange a look of pure astonishment, struggling to understand the impossible feat their 5-year-old son just accomplished. Seeing their shocked expressions, Ares begins to panic, worrying that he has done something wrong or unnatural. His father and Elise murmur to each other, both admitting they have never even heard of ice magic, let alone a user creating it on the spot in their first battle. Ares's anxiety spirals as he imagines the worst, terrified that his family will now be scared of him because of his strange powers. But then, his father's expression shifts to one of dawning realization and pride. He concludes that this simply means Ares is a prodigy. Elise, looking equally impressed, solemnly agrees with her master. Ares is left completely speechless by their unexpected reaction. His father quickly apologizes for making him anxious, ruffling his hair and explaining they were just incredibly surprised, not scared. He closes his eyes, a look of immense pride washing over his face. Kneeling down, he pulls Ares into a gentle hug, telling him how proud he is and how incredibly cool his new magic was. Ares's eyes well up with tears of relief and happiness at his father's praise. With a joyful, tear-streaked smile, he thanks his father with all his heart. The intense battle and overwhelming emotions finally take their toll, and his eyelids begin to droop. He collapses forward, falling fast asleep against his father's chest. His father holds him close, a soft, loving expression on his face. Elise notes that his exhaustion is understandable and offers to carry him back to the mansion, but his father shakes his head, saying he will carry his son all the way home himself. He gazes down at his sleeping son's face. As he holds him, he wonders what the future will now hold for his extraordinary child. That night, the family gathers to discuss the incredible events of the day. Sheila sits by Ares's bedside, marveling at the existence of ice magic, a power she never could have imagined. His father stands behind her, his expression uncharacteristically grave. He reveals that he has known from the very beginning that Ares was special, that both his birth and his magic were extraordinary. He knows now that his son is destined for something great, but regardless of what that is, their duty as parents remains the same. Their sole purpose is to protect him, love him, and raise him to be strong enough to face any future that awaits him. Elise's voice is heard, instructing Ares to unleash his magic without any restraint. 3 days have passed since the hunt, and Ares stands in a field, ready to begin his new, more intense training. A glowing, magical dummy, a training tool created by Elise, is before him. Today, once again, it is time for magic training. Ares shouts, "Ice Lance!" and launches his powerful spell at the target. But before the spear of ice can hit, Elise appears in a blur. With a single, impossibly fast sword strike, she slices the ice spear clean in two. The shattered pieces of ice crash to the ground. Ares is in awe of both his own destructive power and Elise's incredible skill. Elise critiques his form, telling him his magic is impressive but still lacks stability. She instructs him to concentrate his mana more thoroughly. Ares can immediately feel the increased difficulty of this new training regimen. He knows Elise is no longer holding back. His mother, Sheila, has even taken time off work to watch. She marvels at the power of his ice magic, thinking it's even more incredible than she was told. Ares is surprised to see his mother there watching him. He runs over and eagerly asks if she can use ice magic too, but she shakes her head, telling him it's impossible for her. She smiles kindly and asks if he wants to meet someone else who can use ice magic like him. Ares looks down, a little disappointed, and explains that he was hoping if other water mages could learn his technique, it might improve their reputation. His mother's heart melts at his kindness, telling him he truly is a sweet, kind-hearted child. She takes his hands and tells him that this power is his alone, and he must master it for his own sake, not for anyone else. He repeats her words softly, "For my own sake," as he holds her hands. He looks up into her serious eyes and agrees, finally understanding her lesson. She smiles, pleased with his answer. She announces it's time for a break, but Ares is still pondering her profound words. He may not fully grasp her meaning yet, but he cannot mistake the unmistakable seriousness in her eyes. A new thought begins to trouble him. He realizes that being the only ice magic user in the world could bring a lot of unwanted attention, and that must be why his mother is so concerned. His mind then drifts to the academy where his siblings are, and he wonders if he will even be able to go, given his unique situation and lack of friends. He reaches for the sky, hoping that he can attend the academy in the capital, if only to be able to see his beloved brother and sister whenever he wants. He gazes into the distance, wondering what kind of place the imperial capital truly is. Far away, the magnificent imperial capital stands, its grand castle overlooking a sprawling city. In a vast, silent office, a young blonde man sits alone at an imposing desk. Before him lies a letter, sealed with wax and a decorative dagger. He picks up the letter, his expression somber, and declares that the time has finally come. He leans back, tormented by the thought that he has no right to meet the child mentioned in the letter, yet he knows he must go, even if it means disrupting the boy's peaceful life, especially now that the child is 5 years old. He holds the letter, lost in a painful memory, thinking how 5 long years have already passed since that day. Suddenly, the doors to his office fly open, and a young girl with long black hair bursts in, calling his name. He scolds her for not knocking, but she dismisses his complaint, declaring that knocking is a pain. She spots the letter and asks him what he's reading and who it's from. He hesitates, flustered by her sudden appearance and questions. He quickly composes himself and explains that it's a letter from an old friend who has a child her age. Before he can finish explaining that he's planning a visit, she excitedly insists on coming along. She complains that she's bored and wants to go outside, but he looks troubled by her demand. He tells her that, just like her, this other child has no friends to play with. He makes a decision, a gentle look on his face. He promises to take her with him, but only if she works hard at her lessons every single day. The girl's eyes sparkle with excitement, and she readily agrees to the deal. He asks if she understands, and the girl, Ira, beams and gives him a cheerful yup. One night, back at the Missile estate, a sleepy Ares wanders down the hall, drawn by the sound of his mother's voice. He peeks in to see his parents enjoying a quiet cup of tea together. His mother tells his father that simply sharing these moments is all the happiness she needs. His father holds her close, remarking that today marks 15 years since they were married, a revelation that makes Ares gasp. He covers his mouth in shock, realizing he had no idea it was their wedding anniversary. The very next day, a sense of purpose fills the air. Ares rushes to Elise, urgently asking if they can go to the forest, but begging her not to tell his parents. Elise agrees to accompany him, but asks why their trip must be kept a secret. As he helps her with the laundry, he nervously confesses that he overheard that yesterday was his parents' anniversary. Elise looks at him, puzzled by his anxious behavior. Ares clenches his fists with fierce determination and declares that they must celebrate it. Elise is taken aback by his passionate resolve, a look of surprise on her face that he has never seen before. She explains that his parents prefer to celebrate quietly, just the two of them. While he understands that is a lovely tradition, he is not satisfied. With tears in his eyes, he declares that he wants to celebrate it with them this year. Elise's expression softens into a knowing smile. She understands and asks what he plans to find in the forest. He points dramatically, announcing his grand plan: to find ingredients for a magnificent anniversary feast. The scene shifts to the vast forest where their secret mission is about to begin. After searching for a while, Ares is discouraged. He tells Elise they haven't found anything good enough for a feast. Elisa reveals what they've gathered so far: some wild vegetables, mushrooms, and 2 rabbits, which she pulls from her seemingly empty apron, much to Ares's confusion. Ares taps his chin, thinking that this small amount of food is simply not enough for a proper feast. He decides that for a celebration this important, they must have more. Just as he resolves to find something better, Elise suddenly stops him, her expression serious as she tells him to brace himself. They are suddenly under attack, surrounded on all sides by a horde of goblins emerging from the trees. Instead of shielding him, Elise points to one side of the attacking horde and instructs Ares to handle them himself. Ares nods, his face set with determination, ready for his first real combat since his fight with the hobgoblin. He remembers that during that fight, he could only create 1 crude spear of ice. But now, After endless training, he is much stronger. He focuses and creates 3 perfect sharp projectiles of ice that hover in the air, ready to be unleashed. He shouts, "Ice bullet!" and launches the deadly shards at the charging goblins, knocking them back with incredible force. He gives a small thumbs up, overjoyed that his new technique worked. Elise praises his progress, and Ares smiles, humbly saying it was just a spur-of-the-moment idea. He explains that he simply applied her lessons on magical precision to his ice abilities. Elise inspects a defeated goblin and notes that his ice is now far more powerful and colder than before, the mana density much higher. She pats his head with a proud smile, calling him a genius. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes catches their attention. A magnificent chicken with a sparkling golden pompadour struts into the clearing. Ares is about to dismiss it as a regular chicken, but Elise quickly hushes him, whispering that it's a rare and valuable golden chicken. She explains that its meat is a delicacy fit for royalty, making it the perfect ingredient for their feast. Ares's eyes light up with excitement. This is it, the perfect main course. He yells and charges toward the bird, determined not to let it escape. The timid golden chicken is startled by the sudden noise. In a flash, it darts away, disappearing into the woods before he can get close. Ares falls to his knees in despair. Elise explains that she was just about to warn him that the creature is extremely shy. He looks up, whining that he really wanted that chicken. Elise comforts him, assuring him they will find something else. As she pats his head, she wonders why the chicken was so interested in the goblin corpse it was pecking at. Ares also realizes it was strange that the chicken was only pecking at the goblin he defeated with ice magic. He wonders if it was because that goblin was closer, or if it was because it was frozen solid. Suddenly, a brilliant idea strikes him. He creates a block of ice and asks Elise to carve it into a basket, then tells her they need to find berries and branches to use as bait. With all their preparations complete, Ares is ready to set his trap. They construct a simple but clever trap using the ice basket, a stick, and a vine, with berries and a frozen branch inside to lure the chicken. Hiding in the bushes, Ares explains his theory. The golden chicken, which normally stays deep in the woods, must be attracted to cold things. Just as he finishes explaining, they hear a rustling from the bushes. The golden chicken has returned, cautiously approaching their icy trap. It peeks under the basket, its attention caught by the frosty bait. As soon as the chicken is inside, Ares pulls the vine, and the ice cage slams down, trapping it perfectly. They've done it! Ares triumphantly holds up their prize, while Elise celebrates their successful capture. But from the darkness of the trees, a massive, monstrous boar with glowing eyes appears, looming over them. Elise identifies it as a boar pig, which preys on golden chickens. They grab their catch and run. She calmly states that the boar pig is also delicious, so they should just defeat it and take it with them as well. With a single powerful kick, the fearsome monster is sent flying, instantly defeated by the impossibly strong Mage. Elise now effortlessly drags the enormous boar. Ares remarks that they certainly have more than enough for a feast now. Elise agrees, but points out that the meat will spoil quickly and is far too much for just their family to eat. As they head back, they spot Rand walking on the road ahead. The hunter greets them with a friendly smile, happy to see them again. He is astonished by their huge catch and asks if they are preparing for a celebration. After they explain their plan, Rand is deeply moved by the young master's thoughtfulness. He excitedly turns and shouts to the nearby villagers, announcing the surprise anniversary celebration for the Lord. A crowd quickly gathers, and the happy villagers begin offering their own vegetables, cheese, and flowers to contribute to the feast, eager to thank their beloved Lord. Ares is overwhelmed with emotion, seeing the genuine love the people have for his parents. He knows he must thank them properly. He is so touched he can barely speak. He bows deeply, accepting their gifts and thanking them all on behalf of his parents. As a gesture of his own gratitude, he offers the giant boar pig to the townspeople so they can all share in the celebration. He explains that it was too much for his family anyway, and Elise confirms that he can share it. The villagers are stunned into silence by the young boy's incredible generosity. The silence erupts into cheers as they praise him for being such a responsible and wonderful child and thank him for the food. Elise tells Rand she will bring the boar to the town square for everyone to enjoy together. Rand playfully pokes Ares' cheek, startling him. He whispers his thanks and wishes him luck with the rest of his plan. As they walk away with a basket and bouquet, Ares tells Elise he's glad everyone could help with the celebration. He smiles, thinking this will now be a truly fun party for everyone. Rand watches them go, his expression full of pride and admiration for the young boy. Ares feels happy that he could thank the villagers, but now he wants to do something special to thank Elise for all her help. Rand, seeing his dilemma, whispers a secret idea into his ear. When Elise returns, Ares greets her warmly, ready to head back, while Rand thanks her for looking after his young master. Rand gives Ares a big thumbs up and tells him not to screw it up. Ares returns the thumbs up with a confident smile, thanking Rand for his advice. Elise is left completely baffled by their secret conversation. That evening, back at the Missile home, Ares, wearing an apron, announces that they must start cooking before his parents return. When Elise asks if he is going to cook too, he gives a confident, "Yup." She gently points out that he has never cooked before, but he puffs out his chest and declares it will be fine, as he has plenty of experience from his past life. He struggles with a simple wood plane, finding the task much harder with his small, childish hands. He has to stand on a stool just to reach the countertop. He finds that his small body makes everything in the kitchen difficult to manage. He puts a lid on a simmering pot, admitting to himself that cooking as a child is much harder than he ever imagined. With all the dishes finally prepared, they place the lid on the main course. Now, all they can do is wait. That night, the Missile house is quiet and warm under a starry sky. His parents arrive home to a delicious aroma. His mother wonders where the wonderful smell is coming from, and his father asks about all the food. Ares proudly welcomes them to the beautifully set table and invites them to sit. He presents the grand menu for the evening, a special course featuring herb-baked rabbit and the rare golden chicken. Elise proudly announces that every dish on the menu was hunted and prepared by Ares himself, leaving his mother speechless. His father is equally shocked, and Ares humbly adds that Elise helped him, of course. His mother, while overjoyed, is completely confused and asks why he did all of this. With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, he tells them it is a token of his appreciation. He then reveals the true reason for the feast, wishing them a happy, if belated, wedding anniversary. His parents are overcome with emotion, covering their faces as they cry happy tears at their son's incredibly thoughtful gesture. His father wonders how he knew, and Ares sheepishly confesses that he accidentally overheard them the previous night. His parents, their hearts overflowing with love, thank him profusely and promise to savor every bite of the wonderful meal. They look at their son, both thinking that he has truly grown into a fine, kind young man. Elise watches the scene with a rare, gentle smile, thinking how long it's been since she's seen them so happy, and silently congratulates Ares on a job well done. Later, Ares presents Elise with a small bouquet of white flowers, thanking her for helping him make the celebration a success. Elise looks down at the flowers, a flicker of genuine surprise and emotion crossing her usually calm face. She tells him she will treasure them forever, though Ares worries aloud that they will wither. At the dinner table, his mother playfully asks where he got the idea to give Elise flowers. He explains he picked the white ones from the villager's bouquet because they reminded him of her. His mother laughs, teasing him about where he learned such a smooth line, leaving him completely flustered. He frantically explains that it was Rand's idea, recalling how the hunter had advised him on the perfect gift for a woman. Elise smiles to herself, thinking that while her young master has truly grown, his earnest attempts to surprise her are endearing, and she still has a long way to go herself. His parents, unable to resist any longer, have already started eating, exclaiming how delicious every single dish is. Ares watches them, his heart fit to burst with pure joy. He is so incredibly glad he could make them this happy. The family enjoys the feast together, and for Ares, seeing them so pleased makes the day feel absolutely perfect. As he looks at his happy family, he feels a deep contentment, certain that he will have sweet dreams tonight. Later that night, Elise stands alone in the hallway outside her room. She quietly holds the small bouquet of white flowers from Ares, her expression soft and thoughtful. She searches through her dresser for something to put them in. She finds a small pot and places the bouquet inside, its simple beauty brightening the room. She looks at the flowers with a touch of sadness, knowing they will someday wither, a shame after Ares went to such trouble. She stands in silence for a long moment, deep in thought. Then, a look of fierce determination crosses her face. She grabs a large book and begins frantically searching for a way to preserve the flowers forever. She stays up late into the night, studying by candlelight, Some days later, his mother notices flowers hanging in the kitchen. She recognizes them from the anniversary and remarks on how lovely they are. Elise simply explains that they have become dried flowers. In a warm, steamy bathroom, young Ares soaks with his father, Gray, the heat making him incredibly sleepy as he rests in the water. Gray gently reminds his son to soak all the way up to his shoulders to stay warm. The boy sleepily agrees, but suddenly, his father seems to remember something vital. He calls out to Ares, who looks up with wide, curious eyes, wondering what his father could possibly want. Gray's expression turns completely serious, the playful mood vanishing in an instant. He explains that a very important guest is coming to their home tomorrow, and he needs his son to be there for the meeting. Ares is taken aback by his father's sudden formality, a feeling of unease stirring within him. He asks just what kind of person this guest is to warrant such a serious tone, but his father's stern look melts away into a warm smile. He gently pats the boy's head, explaining that the identity of their visitor will be tomorrow's surprise, much to Ares's disappointment. As Gray begins to get out of the tub, he gives his son one last instruction: to make sure he stays home tomorrow. Ares watches him go, realizing his father expertly dodged the question. Later, wrapped in a fluffy towel, he thinks about his father's strange request. If his dad insists he meet this person, then they must be incredibly important, and he resolves to be on his absolute best behavior. The next day, Ares waits in his finest clothes, his legs swinging with utter boredom as he anticipates the mysterious guest's arrival. He has no lessons, no training, and he can't even go outside, so his boundless curiosity is making it absolutely impossible to sit still. Just then, his mother, Sheila, appears with the maid Elise, her gentle smile cutting through his restlessness. She asks her son why he's fidgeting so much, and Ares looks up, surprised by her sudden appearance. He admits that the more he thinks about their mysterious guest, the more restless he becomes, unable to contain his anticipation. Sheila just chuckles, explaining that it will be a little while longer since someone has already gone to pick them up. Seeing his boundless energy, she comes up with a brilliant idea to keep him occupied. She asks if he would be willing to run a small errand and buy some sweets for their guests. With a playful wink, she tells him it's perfectly fine to take a little detour and have some fun, just as long as he's back before the guests arrive in the afternoon. Ares's entire face lights up with pure, uncontainable joy. His eyes sparkle with gratitude for his mother's understanding and kindness. Filled with a brand new sense of purpose, he puffs out his chest with determination. He promises his mother he will find the most delicious sweets in the entire town. As he excitedly rushes out the door, Sheila watches him go with a warm smile, telling him to be careful. But behind her smile, a flicker of deep worry clouds her eyes. Once her son is gone, her expression turns somber. She turns to Elise and sighs, confessing that the day she has been dreading has finally arrived. As Ares runs through the streets, his heart filled with innocent excitement, his mother offers a silent, desperate prayer for the day to pass peacefully. But peace is shattered on a lonely dirt road far away. The wheel of a carriage spins wildly. Something is terribly wrong. Inside, a man with silver hair holds a frightened little girl close. He tries to comfort her, his voice a low whisper, telling her that everything is going to be okay. He grits his teeth in frustration. They've been ambushed, and most of their guards are already down. He curses, wondering how information about their secret journey could have possibly been leaked. He holds the girl, Ira, even tighter, his face a mask of grim determination. He will protect her, no matter the cost. Looking out the window at the chaos, he knows they are so close. They just have to hold on a little longer until they reach the safety of Gray's territory. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the danger, Ares happily walks through the town market, focused on his very important mission to find the perfect sweets. His eyes land on a stall filled with colorful treats, and he excitedly points to the one he wants. The friendly shopkeeper greets him, surprised to see the young lord out on an errand by himself. He proudly tells her that he is on a very important mission. She is so charmed by his responsible nature that she gives him extra sweets for free, and he thanks her with a dazzling smile. Suddenly, chaos erupts. A town guard rushes past, shouting for everyone to evacuate, warning them that a carriage is under attack. Ares freezes, his happy mood instantly evaporating. He sees soldiers rushing towards the commotion, and a terrible, Thought begins to form in his mind. A carriage under attack. On the one day his family is expecting important guests? The realization hits him like a bolt of lightning. He drops everything and runs. He sprints past a group of soldiers, yelling that he can hear fighting just ahead. He reaches the edge of the town square, and his eyes widen in horror at what he sees. His father stands against them all. A group of masked attackers surrounds him. Gray roars for them to stop. They ignore his command. One of them lunges forward. He's going for a killing blow. His father's eyes narrow, a lifetime of experience guiding his blade as he parries the strike. Ares watches in terror. His father is in danger. The guests are in danger. He has to do something. He considers using his deadly ice bullet, but immediately dismisses the idea. He can't risk killing them, no matter what. Then, a new plan forms. He doesn't have to attack them directly. He just has to stop them in their tracks. With intense focus, he places his small hands on the stone ground, summoning a power this world has never seen. A massive wave of jagged ice erupts from the cobblestones, surging across the square like an unstoppable force. Everyone freezes. His father, the attackers, all of them are stunned by this sudden, impossible magic. The lead attacker shouts in disbelief, asking what this is. The ice wave crashes into him, instantly encasing his feet in a frozen prison. In seconds, all the attackers are trapped. They are completely immobilized, their legs frozen solid. They struggle furiously, shouting in panic about this strange, unheard-of magic. From the edge of the square, Ares screams, "Father, now!" Gray turns, his face a mixture of pure shock and overwhelming pride. He doesn't hesitate. He moves in a flash, knocking out the helpless lead attacker with a single decisive blow. With the threat neutralized, Gray orders his men to find Rand and Elise. From inside the carriage, two pairs of eyes watch the incredible scene unfold. The little girl's face is pressed against the glass, her eyes sparkling not with fear, but with pure, unadulterated amazement. The man, Xenos, stares at the small boy who just saved them. Ira turns to him, breathlessly asking if he saw what just happened. His gaze is soft, filled with a dawning realization and wonder. He finally understands. He quietly says to himself, "So, that child is..." As Ares runs towards him, Gray looks at his son, struck by how much he resembles someone from his past. He rushes up to his father, who immediately questions why he's here and why he would use his secret magic in front of so many people. Ares looks down, ashamed. He explains that he was on an errand when he saw his father in trouble and just acted without thinking. He offers a quiet apology, but Gray's stern expression softens instantly. He gently pats his son's head, telling him that all that matters is that he's safe. He promises to make sure the soldiers keep this a secret. Ares looks towards the damaged carriage, about to ask about the guests, just as his father calls out to the people inside. The door bursts open and the little girl, Ira, rushes out. She gets right in Ares's face, her eyes shining with excitement, and tells him how incredible it was when he froze all the bad guys. She demands to know his name. Overwhelmed by her energy, he shyly introduces himself. She beams, telling him her name is Ira and pointing out how similar their names are. Her father steps out and gently tells her to calm down. Ares, still flustered, turns to his father and asks who these people are, while Ira continues to smile at him with boundless energy. Gray looks at the two of them with a complicated smile. He confirms that these are, indeed, the guests he wanted his son to meet. Xenos looks down at the small boy who single-handedly saved them, and he speaks his name with a tone of reverence. He places a hand over his heart, introducing himself as an old friend of Gray's, and offers his deepest, most sincere thanks for his help. Remembering his manners, Ares gives a polite bow, thanking Xenos for being a friend to his father. He feels a strange familiarity with this man, wondering if it's because they both have silver hair. Xenos is deeply impressed by the boy's polite nature. He turns to Gray, remarking that after seeing that display of power, there is no doubt that Ares is his son. Gray puffs out his chest, filled with pride. Ares watches the two men, sensing a strange and awkward atmosphere between them that he can't quite understand. It's the first time he's ever met one of his father's friends, and he finds their interaction a little strange. He wonders if this is just how adult friendships are. In his past life, he never had any friends, so he has no way of knowing. His thoughts are interrupted by Ira tapping him on the shoulder. She asks what's wrong and tells him their replacement carriage has arrived. Startled, he jumps slightly, and Ira looks at him curiously, thinking he's a little bit odd. "Let's go home," she says, already leading the way to the new carriage. Ares watches her go, a hopeful thought taking root in his heart. For the first time, he has met another child his own age. He wonders if they could actually become friends. On the ride home, Ira hums a happy tune, but Ares's mind is still replaying the attack, filled with unanswered questions. He turns to his father and asks what the attackers were after. Gray offers a simple explanation, telling him that Xenos is a merchant, and that business rivals often cause trouble for one another. As he climbs into the carriage, Ares thinks that being a merchant sounds like a dangerous job. He also realizes that Xenos must be an incredibly important merchant to be targeted like that. Elsewhere, in a dark storage room, Rand and Elise interrogate the captured attackers. Rand curses in frustration, unable to get them to reveal who hired them. He tells Elise to go on ahead, knowing she needs to report back to Xenos. He assures her he can handle the rest. With a cheerful wave, he promises to stop by later with some of Xenos' favorite drink, telling her to have some good snacks ready for him. Elise gives a small smile and a wave, confirming they will be waiting for him before she departs. The replacement carriage finally arrives at the Missile family home. Ares carefully steps down onto the ground, ready to be home. Inside, Xenos gently shakes Ira, telling her it's time to wake up, as they have finally arrived. Ares sees the sleepy girl starting to climb out and panics, desperately trying to remember the proper way to assist a lady. Remembering the lessons from his mother and sister, he quickly extends his hand, politely offering his assistance to Miss Era. She stops, surprised by the formal gesture, a light blush dusting her cheeks as she looks at his offered hand. She shyly accepts his help, thanking him quietly. Ares feels his own face grow warm, but he's proud he remembered his manners. Just then, Sheila and Elise rush out to greet them. His mother's face is filled with concern as she says Elise has told her everything that happened on the road. The group stands together in the courtyard, Ares and Ira still holding hands, looking up at the adults. Sheila's eyes meet Xenos's, and a warm, familiar smile spreads across her face as she greets him. He returns the smile, acknowledging that it has been a long time. She claps her hands together, her cheerful demeanor returning. She says that while there's much to discuss, they should all go inside for Ansao. Ares is stunned. His mother knows Xenos too? He becomes even more curious about the hidden history connecting their families. As they walk inside, he feels he is on the verge of uncovering a great secret about his parents' past. Inside, Xenos formally introduces his daughter, explaining that she will be staying with them for the next 3 days. Then, Gray reveals the first part of the truth. He explains that he, his wife, and Xenos were once all members of the same adventuring party. He adds with a grin that their friend Rand was part of their group as well. Ares is absolutely floored by this revelation. It all suddenly makes sense. That's why his mother knew Xenos. His eyes sparkle with excitement, and he begs them to tell him more. Ira is just as shocked, exclaiming that she never knew her father had been an adventurer. Xenos looks a little embarrassed by all the attention. To explain why his adventuring days are over, he begins to roll up his sleeve. He reveals a long, ugly scar on his arm. He explains that while he can still move around just fine, this injury ended his career. Ares looks at the scar with a sad expression, wondering if this was the reason his parents' adventuring party broke up. Xenos explains that after his injury, Gray and Sierra got married and settled down. Rand stayed in the territory, and he became a merchant. They all went their separate ways. He smiles warmly at the 2 children, telling them that now that he has built a good life, they all thought it was the perfect time to reunite and for their children to finally meet. As his story concludes, Ares looks around, suddenly realizing that Ira has vanished. He wonders where she could have possibly gone. He spots her in a very unexpected place. There, in the middle of the floor, she is lying flat on her back, completely spread out. "I'm so bored," she suddenly yells, her voice echoing through the quiet room, her patience for the adults long. Conversation completely gone. Her father immediately panics, rushing over to tell her that's no way to behave in someone else's house. But she just complains that their grown-up talk is taking far too long. To his surprise, Gray and Sheila just laugh. Sheila admits their conversation is probably very boring for children, and Gray smiles, admiring his friend's daughter's free spirit. Ares sees his chance to solve the problem. He suggests that he could show Ira around the town to keep her entertained. At his words, she immediately sits up, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I want to go," she exclaims, jumping to her feet. Ares, however, is a little more hesitant, suddenly feeling the pressure of being a host. Xenos apologizes for his daughter's energy, but Gray just waves it off, saying it's a good thing for a child to be so lively. He adds that it will be a good experience for Ares. Ares is stunned. He feels as though he's just been given a very important and slightly terrifying mission from his father. A little while later, they are walking through the bustling town, with Elise following closely behind. Ira looks around in absolute awe, amazed by all the shops. She spots a stall selling glittering magic stones and points excitedly, telling him that her father is a merchant who deals in them. Still feeling shy, Ares can only manage a quiet, "Oh, really?" But inside, his mind is racing. He worries his reply sounded cold and uninterested, and he feels like he's already failing as a tour guide. He has no idea what to talk about with another kid. What are you supposed to say to someone you've just met? Just as he's getting lost in his nervous thoughts, she saves him by asking a simple question. "Hey, Ares, how old are you?" He shyly answers that he is 5. She puffs out her chest proudly, announcing that since she is 6, she is officially the older one. She tells him it's incredible that he can use such powerful magic at only 5, admitting she's not very good at it herself. He is surprised to learn that she can use magic too. Finally, on a topic he understands, he eagerly asks about her magic attribute. But she just points a finger at him, playfully telling him to stop being so formal. He gets flustered all over again, trying to explain that it's only proper since he's younger. Then, blushing, he confesses the real reason he's so awkward. He's never really talked to other kids his age before, so he's incredibly nervous. At this, she bursts out laughing. "You're so weird," she says, much to his shock. With a cheerful wink, she explains. His amazing magic and calm demeanor made him seem so grown up, but now he's acting just like a normal, flustered kid. She smiles kindly, telling him she's relieved. It shows that he's a child too, and that, just like her, he's a little bit different from everyone else. She turns away, explaining that her pure black hair and eyes are very rare in this world, and because of it, people often look at her strangely. He understands instantly. In his past life, black hair was common, but here it makes her an outcast and must make her feel so lonely. He looks right at her and speaks from the heart, telling her that her hair and eyes aren't strange at all. In fact, he thinks they're beautiful. Her cheeks turn a deep shade of red. She quickly turns away, hiding her face as she mumbles a half-hearted threat not to lie to her. "It's not a lie," he insists, waving his hands in a panic, while Elise watches the sweet scene unfold with a knowing look. Internally, she is deeply impressed, thinking to herself that her young lord has a natural gift for being charming. But Ares, completely misreading the situation, whispers to Elise with a worried expression, afraid that he has somehow made Ira angry. Elise just gives him a mysterious smile, thinking his future is going to be very interesting. Ares is more confused than ever. To break the awkward silence, Elise smoothly changes the subject, mentioning that she heard from Xenos that Ira is a skilled sword fighter. At the mention of her talent, Ira's mood brightens instantly. Still blushing, she proudly confirms that she is good with a sword and enthusiastically offers to teach him. His face lights up with pure joy and relief. He happily accepts, admitting he's not very good with his own sword yet and would love her help. A shy, quiet moment passes between them as they stand there. Then, with a thoughtful smile, she looks at him and says she'll teach him, because he is, after all, her friend. The word friend echoes in his mind, and a warm, happy feeling spreads through his chest. He has just made his very first real friend. A brilliant smile spreads across his face. He gently takes her hand and says, "It's nice to officially meet you, Ira." She holds his hand and adds her own condition. In return for sword lessons, he has to teach her magic. "Of course," he agrees instantly. Elise watches them with a small, satisfied smile. It seems her work here is done, and it's time to head back. Meanwhile, back at the estate, the mood has grown much more serious. Xenos is finally getting to the true reason for his visit. He drops a bombshell. He is not a merchant. He is the Emperor, and he addresses Gray not as his friend, but with the formal title of Your Imperial Majesty. In a flash of memory, we see a tiny baby Ares. The Emperor's voice reveals the whole truth. Ares is not Gray's son. He is the imperial prince, sent here to be raised in secret. Xenos thanks them from the bottom of his heart. Gray and Sheila bow their heads deeply, telling the Emperor his words are too kind. Xenos sits in a heavy silence, the weight of 5 lost years pressing down on him. Gray looks at his old friend with pained eyes and asks him to stop with the formal titles. Xenos gives a sad smile, admitting that being the Emperor is a very lonely existence. Sheila's gentle laugh breaks the tension. She reminds him that the person sitting with them today is not the Emperor, but just Xenos, their dear friend. Relieved, Gray feels it's finally safe to tell him everything. He apologizes for not telling him about Ares' unique ice magic. Xenos admits he was shocked, as there was no mention of it in any letters or reports from Elise. It becomes clear that Elise's role was more than just a maid. She was an agent of the Emperor, assigned to secretly protect the young prince. Gray and Sheila apologize again, explaining it was their decision to keep it a secret. They just wanted Ares to live a free and happy life, and they couldn't bring themselves to fully trust even their old friend. But Xenos holds no anger for them, only a profound, heartbreaking understanding. How could he blame them, when he is the father who abandoned his own child and stayed away for 5 long, agonizing years? He confesses the real reason he stayed away. He was afraid. He was terrified of having someone precious by his side, only to lose them again. He blames himself for what happened to his wife Celia. Gray and Sierra try to comfort him, telling him it wasn't his fault, but he is lost in his grief, apologizing over and over for the pain he believes he caused. He suddenly shakes his head, as if waking from a terrible nightmare. Apologizing for his outburst, he tries to compose himself. Sheila gently tells him it's understandable, as those were chaotic and terrible times for the entire country. Xenos recalls how he took the throne to bring peace, and how his beloved Celia stood by him through it all. He reveals the painful truth of their past. Because she was a commoner, he was forced into a political marriage with an empress, a condition that broke Celia's heart. His voice cracks with pain as he tells them his greatest failure. He couldn't protect her from assassins. He was forced to send their only child, his last connection to her, away to be raised in secret. He also reveals that Ira, the girl he has come to love as his own, was originally brought to the palace as a decoy to protect the real prince. A flashback shows a tiny, lonely Ira. Xenos explains that it was easy to pretend she was Celia's child, as she had the same black hair and even the same magic affinity. He explains that because she is a girl, she has no claim to the throne and is safe. But Ares, as a boy, is in constant danger. Gray looks his friend in the eye and asks the question that has haunted him for 5 years. Is Ares in danger of being dragged into a fight for the throne? Xenos pauses, his expression grim. He admits that he cannot say for certain. He explains that the Empress has a son who is the official heir. But if something were to happen to that boy, attention would immediately turn to the hidden prince. Xenos hangs his head in shame, calling himself a hopeless man for placing such a burden on his own son. Gray and Sierra try to comfort him. At that moment, the door bursts open without warning. It's Rand, holding a bottle of sake with a huge grin, cheerfully greeting his old friends. His smile quickly fades as he takes in the gloomy atmosphere. "What's with the long faces?" he asks. Gray just says they were talking about old times. Rand then notices Xenos and immediately sobers up, bowing respectfully to His Majesty. Xenos manages a small smile, telling him he hasn't changed. Sheila sees the perfect opportunity to change the mood. She quickly pours drinks for everyone, declaring that it's time to celebrate their reunion. Gray, Sheila, and Rand raise their glasses, their spirits lifting. Xenos looks at his 3 dearest friends, and a genuine, warm smile finally breaks through his sadness. He raises his glass to join them. The 4 of them clink their glasses together in a heartfelt toast, a moment of true friendship that pushes away the shadows of the past, at least for one night. While the adults reconnect, Ares and Ira continue their happy stroll through the town, unaware of the heavy secrets being shared back at the house. "I really like this place. It's so peaceful," Ira exclaims. Ares is thrilled that she's having a good time. He humbly says there isn't much to see, but she enthusiastically disagrees, saying the people are kind and the snacks were delicious. She turns to him with a radiant smile, saying the best part was getting to walk around a town with a friend for the very first time. Aries blushes happily and admits it's his first time too. With a sincere smile, he tells her he's glad his first time was with her. His innocent but sweet words catch her completely off guard, and her face flushes a deep shade of red. Flustered, she thinks to herself how surprisingly charming he can be. She turns to Elise and asks if he's ever gone for a walk like this with anyone before. Just then, another boy accidentally bumps into Aries. His mother immediately grabs him, scolding him for running into the Lord's son. The boy is terrified and stammers an apology. Aries quickly tells him it's okay. The mother and son bow repeatedly before hurrying away, leaving an uncomfortable silence. Ira puts a concerned hand on his shoulder and asks if he's all right. He nods, but his expression is a little sad. He watches the boy disappear, wishing he could have just casually invited him to walk with them. Elise steps forward, telling Aries that his desire to treat everyone as an equal is an admirable quality. However, she presents him with a difficult lesson, asking him to imagine what would happen if that boy treated a stricter noble with the same casual friendship. The reality of her words sinks in. He understands that in a less kind household, the boy could be severely punished for such a simple act. Elise explains that this is why a line must be drawn between nobles and commoners, to protect everyone. He realizes that behaving like a proper noble isn't just about status. It's a way of keeping the people of his territory safe. Elise confirms he is understood perfectly. He nods, saying he gets it now, but he can't help but admit that it still feels a little lonely. Just as that sadness starts to settle in, he feels a small, warm hand gently take his. It's Ira. She looks up at him, her cheeks slightly pink, and reminds him, "You've got me, don't you?" Her simple, kind words are all he needs. The sadness melts away, replaced by gratitude. He looks at his new friend and smiles. "Yeah, you're right." A brilliant, joyful grin lights up his face. He squeezes her hand, declaring that as long as he has her as a friend, that's more than enough. Ira is once again left speechless by his honest charm. Behind them, Elise thinks to herself what a perfect thing to say. A flustered Ira playfully calls him an idiot and tries to hide her blushing face. Elise announces that it's time for them to head back home. But when they walk back into the dining room, they are greeted by a scene of complete and utter chaos. The grand reunion has turned into a wild party. Gray, Xenos, and Rand are all passed out or slumped over the table, surrounded by empty bottles. Only Sheila remains composed, calmly sipping her drink. Sheila, ever the calm center of the storm, begins to tidy up. She tells Aries to take Era to his room and that she will bring them dinner soon. Aries looks on, amazed that his mother is handling the messy situation all by herself. As they walk away from the chaos, Aries admits with a nervous smile that he's never seen his father act like that before. Ira agrees, saying she's never seen her own father so carefree either. Later that evening, tucked warmly into a soft bed, Ira thinks about her day. The dinner was delicious, and her time spent exploring the town with Aries was so much fun. Her thoughts drift back to the moment of danger on the road. She remembers the carriage being attacked and how, in a flash of brilliant ice, Aries saved them all. A wave of shame washes over her. She remembers how she just stood there, frozen in fear, unable to do anything to help. Even though Aries was younger and smaller, he fought so bravely. She hides her face in her pillow, admitting to herself that she was frustrated. That frustration had made her a little mean to Aries at first, even though he had been nothing but kind to her. Her heart softens as she remembers his gentle voice, telling her that her hair and eyes were beautiful. She kicks her feet under the covers, completely flustered. What a strange boy he was. His words had made her so happy, but he was so serious about it. With a determined smile, she decides that for the rest of her visit, she's going to spend as much time with him as she can. As the moon shines down on the quiet house, Ira makes a solemn promise to herself. She is the older one, after all, and she will look after her new friend. The next morning, Ira bursts into Aries' room with the energy of the morning sun. "Good morning, Aries, wake up," she shouts cheerfully. A sleepy Aries sits up in bed, rubbing his eyes, and wishes her a good morning. Ira, already full of energy, tells him to hurry up so they can go eat breakfast. Aries sleepily remarks on how much energy she has so early in the day. At the breakfast table, Gray and Xenos are not nearly as energetic. They are both suffering from terrible headaches after their celebration, while Elise calmly serves them tea. Sheila, who looks perfectly refreshed, ignores the two complaining men and turns to the children. She asks them what they would like to do today. suggesting maybe they could read a book. Ira puts her finger to her chin, thinking hard about the possibilities. Her eyes light up with a brilliant idea. She declares that she wants to go to the forest with Ares and fight monsters. Ares' heart swells with understanding. He knows that Ira feels the same way he does. She wants to become strong enough to protect the people she loves. He jumps in immediately, eagerly asking his father if they can go. Ira clasps her hands together and gives the two fathers her most hopeful look. Xenos and Gray share a knowing look. Xenos remarks on how quickly children grow up, and Gray agrees with a proud smile. Gray gives them permission, but only if Elise goes with them to supervise. The children cheer with excitement, promising to be good. Dressed in cloaks and ready for adventure, they arrive at the edge of the woods. Ares explains that this is his usual training spot. Ira looks around, a little nervous now that the adventure is real. Ares notices her hesitation and gives her a teasing smile, asking if she's nervous. He places a reassuring hand on her shoulder and reminds her that she's not alone. He and Elise are right there with her. Ira blushes and quickly denies it, insisting she's perfectly fine. Ares just smiles, happy that she feels better. Elise steps forward, her expression serious. She tells them that Ares just said something very important. Battle is not something you do alone, she says, her voice firm. It's a lesson she wants them both to learn. She explains that with Ira's sword skills and Ares' magic, this will be the perfect chance for them to practice teamwork. Suddenly, Elise's expression changes. She's sensed something. The two children immediately go on alert. A single, ugly goblin leaps out of the bushes, waving a small dagger. Elise calmly assesses the threat. She looks at Ira and gives her the first test. Try to handle it on your own. Ira is shocked to be put on the spot so suddenly. Ares looks at her with concern, asking if she'll be okay. Ira takes a deep breath and grips her wooden sword. She reminds herself that she's the older one, and more than that, she is determined to become strong enough to protect her father. A fire ignites in her eyes. She is also determined to show Ares just how cool and strong she can be. She dashes forward with incredible speed. In a flash, she swings her sword, landing a solid hit on the goblin, but her moment of triumph turns to horror. She stares at the blood on her sword, realizing she has hurt a living thing. The feeling makes her stomach turn, and she freezes in panic. Seeing her falter, Ares yells out, "Ira, calm down!" He knows he has to do something to snap her out of her panic. He shouts words of encouragement, telling her she is strong enough to win. His voice cuts through her fear. He tells her to look closely. The enemy is hurt and weakened. His words remind her of her father's comforting presence. This time is different from the carriage attack. She is not helpless. She can fight back. The injured goblin gets ready to charge again, but this time, Ira stands her ground, ready for it. With a final, desperate scream, the goblin lunges. Ira meets its charge with a steady hand and a clear mind, delivering the final blow. Ares rushes to her side, wrapping her in a big hug. "Ira, that was amazing," he cheers. "You defeated it on your first try?" Ira is still catching her breath, hardly believing it's over. Elise approaches with a rare, small smile of approval. She tells Ira she did a good job and was able to fight properly all by herself. But the praise is short-lived. Elise puts on a funny drill sergeant cap and announces that their next challenge is the 100 Goblin drill. The two children look on in absolute horror. The real training begins. With Elise shouting orders through a megaphone, Ares and Ira learn to coordinate their attacks. They fight side by side, Ares using his ice magic to create openings, and Ira using her sword skills to finish the job. They are becoming a powerful team. Through the intense battle, they share a look of triumph. They are exhausted, sweaty, but incredibly happy. Elise watches from a distance, a proud and satisfied expression on her face as she sees the two children laughing and fighting together. After the long drill, Elise lets them take a short break. They collapse onto the grass, tired but proud of how well they are starting to work together. Ares can't stop praising his new friend. He tells Ira how amazing her sword skills are, how fast and flexible she is. He grins and says, "You were like a cat." Ira, pictured with adorable cat ears, is a little confused by the comparison. She blushes slightly and asks him, "Ares, do you like cats?" He seems surprised by the question but answers honestly that he does. Ira falls silent, a thoughtful and slightly flustered look on her face. Ares has no idea why she's acting so quiet all of a sudden. Elise sighs dramatically. Lord Ares is as clueless as ever. She stands up and announces that their training day is over and it's time to head home. As evening falls, Gray and Xenos wait anxiously outside the house. Gray worries that it's getting too late for the children to be out. Xenos is starting to panic, suggesting they go out and find them. Sheila, ever the voice of reason, calmly tells her old friend to relax. Just then, Gray spots a familiar sight in the distance. 3 small figures walking home. The 2 tired but happy adventurers return, led by Elise. "Father, why are you outside?" Ares asks, while Ira sleepily complains that she's hungry. Elise explains that their fathers were worried about them. Hearing this, Ira's face lights up, and she runs to Xenos. She jumps into his arms, proudly declaring that she defeated a monster all by herself. Xenos' face glows with pride as he tells her how amazing she is. He lifts her high into the air, and she squeals with delight. A radiant, joyful smile spreads across her face. Nothing feels better than her father's praise. Ares watches them with a warm smile, happy to see his friend so overjoyed. Gray kneels down to his son's level. He places a hand on Ares' head and tells him that he did a good job too. He praises Ares for protecting Hera and tells him he is a proud son. Ares blushes, his heart full. Later that evening, after a hearty dinner, Gray approaches Ares with a serious question. He asks his son if he would be interested in going to the imperial capital. Ares is taken by surprise. The imperial capital. Gray explains that there is a special academy there, a place where Ares could truly develop his incredible talents. He could even become an adventurer while he studies. Ares thinks about it. He would be sad to leave the only home he's ever known, but the thought of becoming stronger, of learning new things, and of spending more time with his new friend Ira is too exciting to ignore. He looks up at his parents and their guests, his decision made. "I want to go to the imperial capital," he declares with a voice full of determination. Xenos smiles, looking pleased. He tells Ares that he expected him to say that. He then makes an incredible offer. He will personally provide a recommendation for Ares to be accepted into the academy. Ares is stunned. A recommendation from someone so important? He worries this means he has to leave right away. Gray laughs and reassures him. The academy doesn't accept students until they are 8 years old. Ares breathes a sigh of relief. But then, the reality of the timeline sinks in. He only has 3 more years at home. The next day, Ares and Ira are sitting in the yard drawing in the dirt with sticks. Ares tells her he's been thinking about his decision. He is filled with a new and powerful sense of purpose. He tells Ira that in the 3 years he has left, he must find a way to contribute to the territory to repay his family for everything. He admits that it's a big goal, and he isn't sure exactly what he should do to achieve it. Ira smiles, telling him he thinks about very complicated things. Unseen by them, Xenos is watching from around the corner of the house. He listens to his son's earnest declaration, his heart filled with a mixture of pride and a deep, aching sadness for all the time he has lost. He sees how happy the 2 children are together and feels a pang of guilt for not having spoken to Ares properly yet. He wonders what he could possibly say. But as he hears Ares speak of his love for Gray and Sheila, Xenos is deeply moved. His son has a kind and noble heart. Ira giggles, finding his serious determination adorable. She tells him it's natural to want to do things for the people you love. Ares looks at her seriously. It's more than just that. With a slight blush, he quietly confesses, "I want to repay them." Xenos listens from his hiding spot, his expression soft and full of emotion. Ira asks him to explain. Ares tells her that his parents have raised him with so much love and care. They are giving him the chance to go to school and are always watching over him. His heart is so full of gratitude that he feels he must do something to repay their kindness. Just then, Gray walks up behind a startled Xenos carrying a large crate. "Perfect timing," Gray says with a grin, handing the heavy crate of potatoes to his friend and asking him to carry it to the kitchen. Xenos, still lost in thought, agrees. As they walk, Gray looks at his old friend's troubled face. He gives him some simple but firm advice. Stop hesitating and just be a father to his son. Xenos sighs. "That's easier said than done," he admits. The weight of his past failures still heavy on his shoulders. Back in the yard, Ira is thinking about Ares' problem of repayment. She suggests that he could use his unique ice magic to help the territory. Ares considers it, but explains that since he's the only one who can use it, his impact would be limited. A new idea begins to form in his mind. He remembers something she told him earlier. Her father is a magic stone merchant. A brilliant idea sparks in Ares's mind. Magic stones, plus his ice magic. A connection forms, a plan that could change everything. He leaps to his feet, his eyes shining with excitement. This is it, he thinks. He runs to find Xenos, filled with a new and powerful purpose, and declares that he has something very important to discuss. Xenos looks up, a warm and gentle smile on his face. He is surprised but happy to see the boy so full of energy and asks him what he wants to talk about. In the living room, with Ira peeking over the back of the couch, Ares nervously asks Xenos if he could have some of the empty magic stones he had asked for earlier. Xenos places a few rough, white stones on the table and asks if they will do. Ares nods and then closes his eyes, focusing his energy. A soft glow emanates from his hands as he prepares to show Xenos his idea. He places his hand over one of the stones, telling Xenos to watch closely. The stone begins to glow with a cool blue light. Xenos and Ira lean in, their eyes wide with shock and amazement. The dull white stone has transformed into a beautiful crystalline gem that seems to glow from within. It's so cool, Ira whispers in awe. Xenos holds the newly created ice magic stone in his hand. It's something no one has ever seen before. He immediately understands the incredible potential of what Ares has just created. This, he realizes, could change the world. His expression turns serious. He tells Ares that with this power, he could become unbelievably wealthy. He asks his son what he plans to do with these powerful new stones. Ares looks at him earnestly. He explains that he doesn't care about the money. He wants these stones to be available to as many people as possible, hoping they can be used to make his family's territory a better, more prosperous place. But he admits that he has no idea how to even begin. Xenos closes his eyes, taking in his son's words. Xenos' heart is overwhelmed with emotion. He had always felt that he failed as a father and had no right to be in his son's life. But now, his son is asking for help, not from the Emperor, but from Xenos the merchant. This is his chance. A look of profound determination crosses Xenos' face. He decides then and there that he will help his son achieve his dream. He promises to use his resources as a merchant to get all the empty magic stones Ares needs and to create a system to sell the new ice magic stones to the world. His face lights up with pure joy. Xenos explains that if they can make this territory the only place where ice magic stones are made, it will bring money, people, and prosperity to the land. Ares thanks him from the bottom of his heart. Xenos then pulls out a pen and paper, ready to discuss business. He tells Ares they need to figure out how much money he will get for each stone he creates. He quickly calculates a number that is so large, Ares' eyes practically pop out of his head with shock. Ares immediately protests, saying he can't possibly accept that much money. His only goal is to make the stones cheap enough for everyone to afford. He promises to work extra hard to make as many as he can. Xenos looks at his son with a warm, admiring smile. He is touched by the boy's completely selfless heart. He agrees to do everything he can to help make Ares' dream a reality. Just as their serious business talk concludes, Ira reappears. She asks her father if he is done monopolizing Ares. She had been so bored waiting for them to finish. She leans over the couch and begs Ares to let her see the beautiful magic stone again. Ira gazes at the glowing ice stone in her father's hand, her eyes filled with wonder. "Wow, it really is beautiful," she whispers. Hearing her words gives Ares another idea. If he could get stones that were cut into better shapes, he could use his magic to make them into beautiful accessories, like rings and necklaces. Just then, Ira decides she must have the prototype stone. She tells her father to give it to her, explaining that she needs it for her own business negotiations when she gets back home. Her words suddenly remind Ares of a sad reality. Their visit is almost over. Ira and her father will be leaving tomorrow, and he will have to say goodbye to his first friend. As if on cue, Gray and Sheila appear in the doorway, announcing that Ares' business meeting was amazing and that they heard everything. Ares is flustered that they were listening in, but Ira only has one thing on her mind. "Snacks!" she cheers, her attention completely diverted. Before Ira can drag him away, Xenos asks Ares if there is anything else he needs. Ares looks down shyly. He blushes and asks if, by any chance, Xenos has any nicely shaped empty magic stones that he could spare. Xenos looks at him, a knowing glint in his eye. The next day, it's time to say goodbye. Xenos thanks Gray and Sheila for their hospitality over the past 3 days. He turns to Gray, telling him to leave the magic stone business entirely in his hands. Gray nods, saying he is counting on him. Xenos smiles, ready to depart, but saying goodbye isn't so easy for the children. Ira clings to Ares in a tight hug, refusing to let go. Xenos gently tells her it's time to leave. He understands that it's hard to part ways, but he can't get her to budge. Ira buries her face in Ares' shoulder, trying to hold back her tears. Ares looks on, his own heart aching with the sadness of their farewell. "Hey, Ira," he says softly. "I have something I want to give you. Hold out your hand." He gently places a delicate silver chain into her open palm. She looks down and sees a beautiful pendant made from a teardrop-shaped crystal that glows with a faint blue light. "It's a magic stone pendant," he explains. "I infused it with my ice magic." He gives her a shy smile and reminds her that she had said the stones were beautiful. He tells her how much he enjoyed spending the last 3 days with her and that he wanted her to have it. Ira's tears of sadness are replaced with tears of joy. She clutches the pendant to her chest and promises to treasure it forever. She gently touches the beautiful gift, her heart so full of emotion she can barely speak. She looks up at him and quietly asks him to close his eyes. Confused but trusting, Ares does as she asks. Ira leans in and gives him a soft, quick kiss on the cheek. Ares' eyes fly open, his face turning bright red with shock. The adults, who saw the whole thing, look just as surprised. Just as quickly, Ira pulls away, her own face flushed. That's my thank you," she stammers, adding that it was her first kiss before running to the carriage. Ares is left completely stunned, touching his cheek in disbelief. He snaps out of it just in time to wave as the carriage begins to pull away. See you again, Ira," he calls out. Ira leans out the carriage window, her face still red but her eyes shining with happiness. "Yeah, see you," she yells back. As a last thought, Ares shouts a practical warning, telling her that the pendant has attack magic stored in it, so she should use it if she's ever in danger. His very unromantic parting words make her pause. She leans against the window frame, a frustrated but happy blush on her face. "Ares, you idiot!" she yells with a laugh. "Think about the mood." As the carriage disappears down the road, Ares stands there, still blushing and completely bewildered. Inside the carriage, Ira complains about how Ares ruined the romantic moment. Xenos just smiles and says, "Good for you, Ira." He then asks her directly, "So, do you like Ares?" Ira is so flustered she can barely speak. She looks down, fiddling with the hem of her sleeve, and quietly admits that she does. Xenos looks out the window, a thoughtful smile on his face. He can tell that her feelings are serious. He reflects on the strange situation. His adopted daughter has fallen in love with his biological son. While it makes him happy, it's also very complicated. As their carriage drives away, he tells Ira that Ares is going to be very popular one day, so she'll have to do her best. He promises himself that he will do everything in his power to ensure a happy future for both of his children. Back at the estate, Ares and his family wave until the carriage is out of sight. Ares admits that it feels lonely now that they're gone, but he touches his cheek where Ira kissed him and smiles. He knows that if he goes to the capital in 3 years, they will definitely see each other again. With renewed determination, he vows to do his best for his family and the territory until that day comes. 2 years fly by. A much older Hilda finishes packing a large suitcase. She looks out a window, a fond smile on her face. "Ares," she says to herself, "I wonder if he's doing well." The scene shifts to Ares' bedroom. It is now filled with books and scrolls, a sign of 2 years of hard study. A now 7-year-old Ares sits up in bed, having fallen asleep while studying late into the night. He gets dressed, already planning his busy day. Make magic stones, check on the new developments in town, and then he suddenly remembers something very important. A carriage pulls up to the house. Today is the day his big sister, Hilda, is finally coming home. A young woman with long blonde hair and a confident smile steps down from the carriage. "I wonder if Ares is doing well," she thinks to herself, her eyes filled with anticipation. Just then, Ares runs out to meet her, his face lit up with the biggest, happiest smile. "Big sis Hilda!" he cries out. Hilda scoops him up into a giant, loving hug. "Welcome back," he says, his voice muffled by her embrace. She laughs, telling him how much he's grown. Ares grins proudly, telling her he's 7 years old now. He then returns the compliment, telling her that she has become even more beautiful. Hilda is a little flustered, but very happy to hear it. She can't help but agree with a happy blush. Gray and Sheila come out to greet their daughter, both of them beaming with pride. Gray tells her she has grown into a fine young lady. "Welcome home, Hilda," her mother says warmly, as Elise takes her luggage. Gray asks his daughter if she's had a chance to see how much the territory has changed since she's been away. Hilda admits she saw a little on the way in. She was amazed at how much the town has developed. She looks at her little brother, a knowing smile on her face, and guesses that he must be responsible for all the changes. Gray nods proudly. Ares puffs out his chest, excited to show her everything he's done. He gives her a grand tour, showing her how the forest has been cleared to make room for new homes, how the town is bustling with new people, and how they are now raising rare golden chickens and boars, all thanks to the prosperity brought by the ice magic stones. Hilda is amazed. She had no idea her little brother was doing so much more than just making magic stones. Ares excitedly tells her his next plan is to improve the roads. Hilda smiles, finally understanding the worried letters her father had sent. He was worried that Ares was taking on too much responsibility. With puppy dog eyes, Ares explains that he only wanted to make things a little easier for her and their older brother. He just wanted to help. Hilda sighs, but her expression is full of love. Her little brother is trying to carry the weight of the world on his small shoulders again. She puts her hands on her hips and tells him that as his big sister, she needs to show him just how reliable she can be. She ruffles his hair and tells him he's done a great job. Hilda announces that she knows just how to show him her strength. She takes him to the newly established Adventurers Guild, where they run into their old friend Rand. Hilda greets him warmly, asking if he has business at the guild. With a charming and slightly smug smile, Rand reveals a huge surprise. He is now the guild master. Hilda is stunned. Hilda explains her idea to Rand. She wants to play with her little brother. Rand sets the rules. It will be a mock battle, magic attacks only. As the guildmaster, he will act as the referee and stop the fight if it gets dangerous. They stand across from each other in the guild training yard. Rand declares the start of the match. Ares is still in shock. Play meant a real battle? Hilda puts her hands on her hips and grins. She tells Ares that of course she would want to see his amazing magic in a real fight. She winks and beckons him with a finger. She warns him not to be fooled by her looks. She is a very strong magic user, and he shouldn't dare hold back. Ares gets nervous. He knows his sister is serious, but using his powerful ice spears against her would be far too dangerous. He decides to start with a less powerful spell. "Here I go, sis," he shouts, launching a swirling ball of water at her. Hilda stands perfectly still, a calm and focused expression on her face. Just as the water ball is about to hit, she throws up her hand and summons a roaring wall of fire, instantly turning his attack into a cloud of steam. Ares is shocked. His magic was completely cancelled out. Hilda compliments his attack, impressed by his power. She raises her hand, a confident smile on her face. "Now," she says, "it's my turn." With a confident smile, Hilda unleashes her own attack, telling her brother to be ready. "Flame arrow!" she cries, pointing her finger forward. Not just one, but dozens of fiery projectiles shoot through the air, raining down on Ares like a meteor shower. He braces himself for the powerful assault. He knows instantly that his normal water magic won't be enough to block so many powerful attacks. He has no choice but to use his ice magic, and a lot of it. "Ice wall!" he yells, pouring all of his mana into a single, massive defensive spell. A thick, shimmering wall of solid ice erupts from the ground, just as the fire arrows slam into it. Hilda watches as her powerful spell cracks and shatters against the ice wall. But she isn't focused on the attack. Instead, she asks a very strange question. "Ares, have you been playing at all lately?" Ares struggles to hold the wall together under the fiery assault, completely confused by her sudden question. He can feel the ice beginning to melt and crack under the intense heat. Hilda presses on, her voice cutting through the sounds of battle. She points out that with all the work he's been doing for the territory and making magic stones, he can't have had any time to rest or have fun. Aries admits she's right, but doesn't understand why she's bringing it up now. I figured as much, she says. Her expression becomes deadly serious. In that case, come at me with everything you've got on the next strike. She promises to take his full power head on. Aries is still confused by what she's trying to do, but he trusts his sister. He agrees. The two siblings stand across from each other once more, the air crackling with magical energy. They begin to chant their most powerful spells at the same time. Ice, Aries begins, as Hilda summons her own ultimate attack. Flame! Lance! They both shout in unison, unleashing the full force of their magic. A massive spear of pure, jagged ice collides with an equally enormous spear of roaring flame. The impact is tremendous. A massive cloud of steam and magical energy explodes outwards, completely covering the training ground. Rand, watching from the sidelines, stares in shock. The two opposing spells were so perfectly matched in power that they completely canceled each other out. The crowd of onlookers who had gathered to watch the mock battle erupts into cheers. They have never seen such a powerful and incredible display of magic. Rand rushes over to check on them, amazed at the incredible talent of the two siblings. He asks if either of them is hurt, but they both confirm they are fine. Later that night, Hilda quietly opens the door to her brother's room. Aries, startled, looks up from his desk. "Sis!" he asks in surprise. Hilda looks at the piles of books and the box of magic stones on his desk and asks him why he is still working so late. She sits on his bed and tells him she's going to sing him a lullaby so he can finally get some rest. Aries protests, saying he's not a little kid anymore. He tries to explain that he has deadlines to meet for the magic stones and has to get up early the next day. Hilda listens patiently, a sad look in her eyes. As he starts to list all the things he has to do tomorrow, he is suddenly pulled backwards. Before he can protest, Hilda pulls him into a warm, gentle hug, tucking him into bed beside her. She tells him that from now on, he can leave everything to her. With a bright, determined smile, she promises to take over all of his duties for him. Aries looks up at her, still wanting to argue. There are so many things he still wants to do for the territory. She simply tells him to write it all down for her later. She gently pinches his cheeks, telling him there are no buts. Her expression softens, and she speaks to him with all the love and concern in her heart. She tells him that she knows he's doing all of this for their family and their people, and she is so grateful and proud of him. But she looks him in the eyes and asks him a very important question. Why do you think we're here? Don't try to do everything all by yourself. With a gentle, loving smile, she reminds him that helping each other and working together is what being a family is all about. She tells him that it's not healthy for all the responsibility to fall on his shoulders alone. Her words finally break through his stubborn resolve, and he quietly agrees. He realizes that in his rush to repay his family before he had to leave, he became so focused that he stopped noticing the people right beside him who wanted to help. He apologizes, realizing that even after all this time, he hasn't changed. He's still causing his family to worry, just like when he was little. Hilda immediately tells him he has nothing to apologize for. She asks him, with a kind and hopeful smile, if he will listen to her request and finally learn to rely on his family. Tears well up in Aries' eyes. He is so moved by his sister's love and understanding. He agrees to let her help. Hilda gives him a thumbs up and a brilliant smile. "Okay," she says. "From now on, leave it to your big sister and get some rest." Tucked into his sister's warm embrace, Aries finally allows himself to relax. He realizes that in all his work for the territory, he never once asked to help his parents directly with their own duties. As he drifts off to sleep, he makes a new vow. For the last year he has at home, he wants to spend as much time as he can simply being with his family. The next morning, Gray and Sheila are up bright and early, completely ready to head out with their farming tools in hand, but they're surprised to see their son, Aries, already awake and waiting for them. Dressed in adorable overalls and holding a small trowel, Aries beams with pure excitement, and with sparkles practically shining around him, He asks if today is the day they finally work in the fields, enthusiastically begging them to take him with them. Completely caught off guard, Gray and Sheila exchange a puzzled look, and his father wonders aloud what on earth has gotten into Ares all of a sudden, since this request is so incredibly unexpected. With a slightly bashful expression, Ares confirms that his big sister Hilda did in fact speak to him. He explains that Hilda told him she would take over some of his work so he could rest and play more, but when he actually thought about it, he realized he didn't really know what to do with all that free time. Ares looks up at his parents with a heartfelt gaze, admitting that he realized he's been so busy lately that he hasn't spent nearly enough time with them, a confession that deeply touches both Gray and Sheila, who look back at him with pure warmth and love. Gray's expression completely softens into a proud smile as he admits to himself that his daughter Hilda is truly something special. And then he makes a firm decision. "All right then," Gray says, gently placing a straw hat on Ares' head as he invites his son to go work up a good sweat together, causing Ares to cheer in agreement, his smile now brighter than the morning sun. As Ares happily walks off with his mother, holding her hand, a figure secretly watches them from a window above. It's Hilda, and she's leaning on the windowsill with a gentle, knowing smile, secretly overjoyed to see her little brother taking her words to heart in his own unique, adorable way. Hilda muses to herself that she told him to rest, but he somehow interpreted it as helping out instead, and she smiles fondly, thinking that this is so typically Ares, and that it's actually a very good thing. With a satisfying stretch, Hilda decides to get started on her own day's work, encouraging her brother from afar to just relax and have fun. Out in the fields, Ares grabs onto the leafy top of a large vegetable buried deep in the ground and pulls with all his might, groaning with the sheer effort of it. He suddenly lets go, taking a desperate breath because the vegetable absolutely will not budge. He wipes his brow, a little flustered that it's so incredibly difficult. Ares looks out across the vast farmland, seeing all the other people working so hard under the sun, and he's completely amazed by the sheer size of the fields, feeling a new respect for the incredible effort everyone puts in every single day. Suddenly, a shadow falls over him, and a kind voice says that it looks like this particular task might still be a little too hard for him. Ares looks up to see his father, Gray, smiling down at him, who kindly asks if he wants to try pulling it out together. Ares happily agrees, and Gray gets right behind him, showing him exactly how to twist the vegetable as he pulls. With a mighty heave together, the giant vegetable pops right out of the ground. Ares gasps in pure amazement and shouts with joy that they actually got it. Ares proudly holds up their prize, his eyes sparkling with pride as he turns to his father, exclaiming that he did it, and Gray smiles warmly, telling him he did a great job. Gray then pats Ares gently on the head, full of fatherly pride, and tells him he's going to check on another part of the field, leaving this area in his son's now capable hands. Ares winks back and happily agrees. Later, Gray waves to a friendly farmer and his wife, casually asking them how things are looking on their side of the fields, and the farmer waves back, happy to report that things are looking great. Gray expresses his genuine relief, mentioning he was worried because the winter was particularly harsh, but the farmer quickly reassures him, explaining that thanks to Gray's special fertilizer mix, they are having an excellent harvest. The farmer then gives a huge, enthusiastic thumbs up, boasting that with the special fertilizer, they can even grow amazing crops just like this. From a distance, Ares and his mother Sheila watch as Gray laughs and chats comfortably with the local farmers, and the whole scene is incredibly peaceful and happy. Ares, still holding the large vegetable he harvested, watches his father with a look of complete surprise, thinking to himself that seeing his father acting so relaxed and casual, like a regular person, feels completely new to him. Sheila appears behind him with a warm hug, smiling as she asks if he's surprised, explaining that this friendly, relaxed man is the real Gray. She points out the other farmers, telling Ares that his father has known them since long before he became the lord of the territory, and that they are some of the few people outside the family that he can truly relax and speak openly with. A brief flashback reveals Gray in his formal lord's attire, looking stern and serious, as Sheila explains that ever since he became a lord, he has felt this constant pressure to act the part, which has kept him tense all the time. Ares' eyes widen in sudden understanding, and he is deeply moved by the idea of having friendships that are so strong they don't change even when a person's status does. He looks down, completely lost in thought, and begins to wonder if he too will be able to find friends just like that when he finally goes to the imperial capital. A short while later, Sheila watches as Ares successfully pulls another vegetable out of the ground all by himself, and she notes with a proud smile that he's already learning so quickly. As Ares works with pure determination, he realizes with a jolt of excitement that something he couldn't do just a little while ago, he can now do with ease, and he thinks about how he will keep growing, step by step, until before he knows it, he'll be all grown up. Sheila watches her son with an incredibly tender expression, her heart filled with a mother's deepest hope for his future. She thinks to herself that just as Gray has his own wonderful friends, she dearly hopes Ares will also have wonderful encounters and find good friends of his own in the capital, and in the background, she casually shows her own incredible strength, pulling out several vegetables at once, much to Ares's amazement. After a long morning of hard work, Ares lies on the grass, completely exhausted but deeply satisfied, fanning his face with his hat and remarking on how much they moved around. Gray walks over, smiling warmly as he sees Ares and comments on how hard he's worked. Sheila, sitting nearby with a picnic basket, completely agrees, telling her husband he did good work too and that she was just about to say it's finally time to eat. Gray smiles, admitting that he's absolutely starving. The family enjoys a lovely picnic lunch together, with Sheila and Gray watching lovingly as Ares takes a huge, happy bite of a sandwich. Ares beams, exclaiming that food tastes so much better after working hard, and his parents happily agree, enjoying their own meal in the warm afternoon sun. As they eat, Ares speaks up again, admitting it was his first time ever seeing his father act so relaxed and friendly with everyone. With a hopeful blush on his cheeks, Ares says that he wishes he can make friends just like that when he goes to the imperial capital. Gray looks at his son, his expression thoughtful and gentle, as he seems to be considering his words very carefully, clearly wanting to say something important about the day's experiences. Gray then asks Ares a simple question. Did he have fun today? Ares turns around, a bit surprised by the question, but answers with a resounding, "Of course I did." Sheila immediately senses that Gray wants to have a private talk with Ares, and she tells her son it's nothing to worry about, reassuring him that his happiness is all that matters. Standing up, Sheila announces she's going to share some of their lunch with the other people from the territory, and as she walks away, she calls back, "See you later," cleverly leaving father and son all alone. As she passes Gray, she gives him a supportive pat on the shoulder, her expression serious but incredibly encouraging. With a determined wink, Sheila silently tells Gray that this is his big chance as a man to finally connect with his son, urging him to make it count. Gray and Ares sit together on the picnic blanket, quietly eating for a moment before Gray chews thoughtfully and finally calls his son's name, and Ares looks up and answers. With his back to Ares, Gray gazes out at the peaceful fields and asks his son a deeply meaningful question. After watching him with the people of the territory today, what did Ares feel? Ares taps his chin thoughtfully, his bright eyes looking up as he seriously considers his father's question. "Well," he begins, "I saw how everyone respects you, father, but you're not scary or bossy. You're just so natural with them." A memory of Gray laughing with the farmers flashes through his mind, and he adds, "It made me want to be able to talk with lots of different people like that, too." Gray closes his eyes, a soft, understanding smile on his face, because he is deeply moved by his son's pure and insightful words. Opening his eyes again, Gray looks at Ares with immense pride and says warmly, "That makes me so happy. You've grown into a kind person who cares about everyone equally." Gray's expression becomes a little more serious as he prepares Ares for the future, explaining that at the Noble Academy in the capital, things are different. There are strict rules about social classes, and this system, for better or for worse, is just how their society works. Ares's face falls slightly as he takes in this difficult lesson, and he looks down, understanding that the simple, equal way of life he loves so much might not be possible in the capital, as he quietly says that he understands. Gray gently reassures him. "But you know, Ares," he says with a kind smile, "a gentle heart like yours will always find a way to do good. Never, ever lose that kindness." Ares looks up at his father, his eyes shining with emotion, completely touched by the unwavering faith his father has in him. Just as Ares is about to speak, their heartfelt conversation is suddenly interrupted by a cheerful shout from the fields. It's Sheila. waving her hat in the air with pure excitement. She calls out that she's found a gigantic radish and needs their help to pull it out, laughing that it might take them all evening. Gray and Aries look over and see a radish of truly unbelievable size, and Gray sweats, wondering if his special fertilizer worked a little too well, while Aries looks at his father with a deadpan expression and asks what in the world he put in that mix. The serious moment is completely broken, and Aries jumps to his feet, ready for the challenge. "Well then, I'll go help too," he announces, adding with a smile that even a kid's strength might be useful. He looks back, his heart completely full from his father's words, and thinks to himself that this is it, a chance to use his strength, no matter how small, to help everyone. With a newfound purpose, Aries runs towards the giant vegetable, shouting to the others that he's coming to help, and Gray watches him go, his heart absolutely swelling with love. Aries turns and calls back, "Father, hurry up!" And a huge smile breaks across Gray's face as he gets up to join in on the fun. Soon, Aries, Gray, and the other farmers are all pulling together, grunting and straining as they desperately try to unearth the massive radish, while Sheila happily cheers them on from the side. That evening, the family arrives home, completely covered in mud from head to toe, where Hilda and Elise are waiting at the door, and Hilda gasps in absolute shock at their messy state. But the muddy family is all smiles, and they laugh about how tough the work was, as Aries excitedly describes the huge, boom-sized radish they finally harvested after a long, hard struggle. At dinner, Elise presents a feast, announcing, "Tonight we're having a full daikon radish course." The table is filled with delicious-looking radish dishes, and Aries lets out a cheer of pure delight. Aries happily digs in, exclaiming how wonderful food tastes after a hard day's work and a warm bath, and Hilda laughs, telling him to eat slowly while the whole family enjoys the meal together. Elise watches them all with a completely blank face, thinking to herself that given the sheer size of the harvest, they will likely be eating radish dishes for a very, very long time. Later that night, Aries finds Hilda in her room and stands before her, simply saying, "Thank you, sis." Hilda looks back at him, a bit puzzled by the sudden gratitude. "What you told me yesterday," Aries explains with a deeply heartfelt expression, "about relying on family, I feel like I finally understood it today." He then blushes a little and asks if she's going to sleep in his room again tonight, and Hilda's eyes curve into a happy smile as she confirms that, of course, she is. She winks playfully, telling him she needs to make sure he doesn't stay up all night working again, and Aries smiles back, promising he won't. Suddenly, a knock on the door interrupts them, and they both turn, wondering who on earth it could be. The door swings open to reveal Gray, Sheila, and even Elise, all carrying pillows and blankets. Aries and Hilda stare in complete disbelief as their parents and the maid casually invite themselves to the sleepover. Gray declares it just wouldn't be fair for only Hilda to join, and Sheila and Elise happily agree, while a completely lost Aries asks what on earth is going on. Hilda pats her confused little brother's head. "Aries, don't you get it?" she asks with a gentle smile. But Aries admits he doesn't get it at all. "We're all so happy," she explains, "because you want to spend time with us." The entire family is shown lounging and relaxing together in the room, simply enjoying each other's company. Gray adds that with less than a year until Aries leaves for the capital, they have to treasure every single moment just like this. And Sheila and Elise nod in heartfelt agreement. Aries' cheeks turn bright red. He's a little embarrassed, but also incredibly happy to be so loved as he smiles and says, "Oh, you guys, you leave me no choice." The family immediately starts planning their time together, with Sheila excitedly suggesting they play rock, paper, scissors every morning to decide who gets to take Aries to their workplace, sparking a friendly but intense competition as Aries pleads with them not to fight over him. Surrounded by his chaotic, loving family, Aries feels a deep sense of peace, and he looks at them all with a soft smile, wishing this moment could happen again and again. He places a hand over his heart, thinking to himself that somehow he is having so much fun right now. That night, as Aries lies in bed, he thinks about how his mother won the first round, meaning he'll go with her to the monastery tomorrow, and he smiles, excited for the day ahead, wishing his older brother could be there to make things even livelier. Far away in the imperial capital, a young man reads a letter from Aries, who excitedly recounts his day and says he's looking forward to seeing his big brother soon. The young man, Sigurd, slams the letter down, shouting about how jealous he is that he couldn't go home with Hilda, but just then there is a knock on his door. A younger boy peeks into the room, nervously asking if now is a good time. Instantly, Sigurd's frustrated expression vanishes, replaced by a radiant smile as he turns to the boy and says that in just one more year, he'll finally get to see Ares. He holds the letter close, his eyes sparkling with pure anticipation as he vows to come for his little brother, while the young boy at the door watches him, completely bewildered by his master's dramatic mood swings. 1 year passes in a flash, and the day of departure has finally arrived. Ares stands with his family, who have all come to see him off, and Sheila gently reminds him to take care of his health. Ares, now a year older and dressed in his new academy uniform, looks up with a determined yet gentle smile, thinking to himself, "Yes, today is finally the day I leave for the imperial capital." His family crowds around him, full of tearful goodbyes, as Gray sniffles that it will be lonely, while Sheila gives him a long list of motherly advice and Hilda tells him to say hello to Sigurd for her. Ares tries to comfort them, saying he'll be fine and is genuinely looking forward to the academy. But as he smiles at his family, he secretly admits to himself that he is going to truly miss them all while he's away. Sheila suddenly pulls him into one last, tight hug, and the rest of the family immediately joins in, piling on top of him in a massive group hug. Ares is happily squished in the middle of his loving family, desperately soaking in their warmth and affection. The driver of the carriage respectfully informs Ares that it's almost time for them to leave. With one last look at his beloved family, Ares pulls away and walks toward the carriage, saying, "I have to go now," as he takes the first step on his new journey. Ares stands at the carriage door and turns back one last time, giving his family a bright, brave smile and says, "Well then, I'm off." His family, Gray, Sheila, Hilda, and Elise, all wave enthusiastically, their faces full of love, pride, and tearful smiles as they watch him go. As the carriage pulls away, Ares looks out the window, watching his family and his home become smaller and smaller in the distance, and he keeps his hand raised in a wave until he can't see them anymore. But the moment they are out of sight, his brave expression finally crumbles. He slumps down into his seat as silent tears begin to stream down his face, his small body trembling with the sheer effort of holding them back for so long. His traveling companion, the cheerful guildmaster Rand, looks over at him with a gentle, understanding expression and softly says his name. As the carriage travels down the country road, Rand's voice reassures him, saying kindly, "You held it together well," praising Ares for being so strong for his family. Ares wipes his eyes, sniffing, and says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Rand," but he manages a small smile as he thanks Rand again for coming with him, and Rand just grins, telling him not to worry about it, as it's on the way for his job anyway. Rand's expression then becomes much more serious, and he tells Ares that there is something important he needs to discuss before they reach the capital, causing Ares to look up, curious and a little nervous. Rand begins to explain, "Lady Ayla," and as he speaks, a beautiful image of the girl with sparkling black hair appears. "Is this country's first princess." Ares is completely stunned by the news, and he asks if Rand means the Ayla he knows, and if that means Mr. Xenos is... Rand confirms it all. Ayla is the princess, and Xenos is the emperor. The news is so shocking that Ares can barely even process the words. "So Ayla was actually a princess?" Ares exclaims, his mind reeling from the revelation, and Rand just nods, telling him to take a moment to let the surprising truth sink in. With a sharp look, Rand explains that this is where the real point of their conversation begins. He reminds Ares of the strict class system in the capital, explaining that as a baron's son, treating royalty like Ayla as a casual friend could cause a lot of trouble for everyone around them. Ares' expression is somber, but he understands completely. "Right, that makes sense," he says quietly, and Rand praises him for catching on so quickly, thanking him for understanding and telling him he'll need to be very careful. But then, Rand gives a sly wink, letting Ares know there's a bit more to it. He explains that Ayla is surely feeling bad about having to keep such a big secret from him, and that she is very much looking forward to seeing him again. "So please," Rand advises with a serious tone, "don't blame her and don't suddenly get all stiff and formal with her either. He asks Ares to just try and stay as natural as he can around her, and at this, Ares's face lights up with a blush and a huge, relieved smile. Okay, he agrees with all his heart. With renewed confidence, Ares gives himself a little pep talk, deciding that no matter what her title is, Ayla is his friend, and he just has to be smart about how he acts depending on the situation. He then has a funny thought and gets tired just imagining it. While he can be friends with Ayla, he definitely can't be casual with her father, the Emperor, anymore. The idea of having to be so formal is just exhausting. Suddenly, a new thought pops into his head. That reminds me, he says, turning to Rand with an excited look. Mr. Rand, Ares asks, his eyes sparkling. You used to be in the same adventuring party as Mr. Xanos and my father, right? Could you tell me about those days? Rand chuckles, calling Ares a strange kid for being more interested in old stories than royal secrets, but he agrees with a nostalgic smile, ready to share a story from their past. It was around the time Gray and Sheila had started to become aware of each other, Rand begins, and Ares leans in, completely absorbed and thrilled to hear about his parents' early days. Sometime later, the rocking of the carriage and the long stories have lulled Ares to sleep, and Rand's voice gently wakes him, saying, Ares, sir, wake up. Take a look outside, Rand says with a grin. We've arrived at the Imperial capital. Ares's eyes snap open, all sleepiness gone in an instant as he looks out the window, his expression filled with pure shock and raw excitement. His eyes widen, reflecting the incredible, towering sights of the massive city. Ares and Rand stand on a cobblestone street, surrounded by towering buildings and crowds of people. So, this is, Ares says, his voice full of pure wonder. The city is a complete whirlwind of activity, filled with people of all kinds, bustling restaurants and lively streets that feel like a world away from his quiet home. The Imperial capital, Ares exclaims, his face absolutely beaming with awe as Rand watches him with a proud, amused smile. As they walk, Rand tells him to stay close, as the area near the Adventurers Guild is always very crowded, and Ares' ears perk up. The Capital's Guild, he says excitedly. Rand confirms that the guild is exactly where they are headed, but as he speaks, Ares gets completely distracted by all the fascinating sights and sounds around them. Seeing Ares wander off, Rand gently takes his hand. Honestly, he says with a sigh, we'll be there soon, so we can look around properly later, all right? Ares apologizes with a sheepish smile. Suddenly, Ares stops dead in his tracks, his eyes fixed on something in the crowd just ahead. A familiar voice shouts his name, and a girl with flowing black hair leaps forward, wrapping him in a joyful, tight hug. Ares! She cries out, and he gasps in surprise. Ayla? Instantly remembering his lessons, Ares gently steps back and gives a very formal bow, saying, It's been a while, Lady Ayla, though in his head he's kicking himself for not being able to act normally. Ayla's happy expression fades, replaced by a deep sadness as the distance between them suddenly feels huge. You're right, she says quietly. Long time no. See? A man with sharp eyes, the Imperial Guild Master, watches them from a distance, recognizing Lady Ayla and correctly assuming the boy with her must be Gray's son. The man formally introduces himself as Niall Hawson, and Ares politely bows and introduces himself as well. Niall greets Rand, thanking him for making the long trip all the way to the capital. Rand apologizes to the two children, explaining that he and Niall have some important guild business to discuss. Ares and Ayla are then shown into a private waiting room, both looking completely confused about being left alone together. But just as the door closes, Rand peeks back in with a huge grin and tells them, You can talk normally in here. The door shuts, leaving the two friends in a quiet, slightly awkward room. They stand in silence for a moment, both blushing and completely unsure how to break the formal tension. Ares finally speaks, his voice soft. Ayla, he says, pointing to her chest. You still have that pendant. Instantly, Ayla's face brightens as she clutches the ice stone pendant and beams, saying happily, Of course I do. It's something precious that I got from my friend. And Ares smiles, deeply relieved and touched. Now that the ice is broken, Ayla apologizes for hiding her true identity from him. But Ares quickly tells her not to worry, saying he understands she had her reasons, even if he was very, very surprised. Ayla's cheerful energy returns in full force, and she proudly shows off her school uniform, asking, "That uniform? Could it be?" And when Ares nods, she exclaims, "That's right. It's the uniform of the school you'll be attending too." And all their awkwardness melts away, replaced by the shared excitement of starting a new adventure together. Ares beams at Ayla, telling her he knew it would be, and that the uniform looks really good on her. And the genuine compliment after so much time apart makes Ayla blush deeply. "Eh?" Ares lets out a happy sound, full of excitement. "I can't wait until I get to wear my uniform too." His cheerful energy is completely contagious. Suddenly, Ayla's expression completely shifts, because a brilliant idea has just struck her, and her eyes light up with determination, leaving Ares confused by the sudden change. "In that case," Ayla declares, grabbing his hand with a huge grin, "let's go get your uniform made right now, Ares." And she takes off running, pulling a shocked Ares along with her. Back in the private room, Rand and Guildmaster Nile are left staring in stunned silence as the two children bolt out the door, and all they hear is Ares' panicked cry of, "Wait, Lady Ayla." Nile jumps to his feet in a complete panic, telling Rand to please go with them while he reports to the Emperor and gets more guards. And Rand shouts, "Leave it to me," as he accepts the chaotic mission. On the busy street, Ares is still trying to catch his breath, asking, "Lady Ayla, is this really okay?" as he worries about her going out without any guards. But Ayla is full of confidence. It's fine," she reassures him. "The tailor's is somewhere around here." As Ayla spots a shop, Ares worries about her using such informal speech outside, and he thinks to himself that she's being way too free and energetic, while Rand struggles to keep up in the background. The two friends stop at a food stall, completely absorbed in the delicious treats, but just then, a shady-looking man with a mohawk sneaks up behind them, but Rand is watching from a distance, his eyes sharp and serious. Before the man can even make a move, Rand appears in a flash and delivers a swift, decisive karate chop to the back of his neck. The threat is neutralized instantly, with the man sent flying, while Ares and Ayla are happily munching on their snacks, completely unaware of the danger they were just in. Rand then expertly and discreetly handles several more troublemakers in the crowd, all while the two children continue to explore the city, blissfully protected. Finally, they arrive at an incredibly elegant and fancy clothing shop. "We're here," Ayla announces cheerfully. "Let's get your uniform made right away." Ares looks around, admitting it's his first time in such a grand place. A very tired-looking Rand finally catches up to them, breathing a heavy sigh of relief. "Mr. Rand!" Ares calls out, and Rand just smiles, saying he's glad they both made it here safely. Ayla stands proudly, not even realizing the trouble she caused, and Rand sighs, noting that she's so fast on her feet she can easily shake off her guards, while Ares watches them, starting to understand just how much the adults worry. Rand decides to save the scolding for later and just get on with making the uniform, and the two children bow and apologize for all the trouble. Inside, a shop assistant leads Ares away to get his measurements taken, and he follows along, still looking a little overwhelmed by the fancy shop. While Ares is busy, Rand gently lectures Ayla, asking her to at least let them know her plans before she runs off next time. A few moments later, Ares comes out wearing a sample uniform, and he strikes a pose as the perfectly tailored outfit sparkles around him, looking incredibly smart. The friendly shopkeeper smiles, informing them that they will create the final uniform in this size and have it delivered very soon. Ares is absolutely thrilled, saying that once he gets his uniform, he'll finally be a proper new student, and he can't wait for the entrance ceremony. Until a sudden, worrying thought crosses his mind. "Entrance, huh?" A spotlight suddenly shines down on the three of them as Ayla and Rand look at him and remind him of one small detail. He still hasn't actually taken the entrance exam yet. Ares breaks out in a sweat, but quickly regains his confidence. "As long as I pass, that's all that matters," he declares, and Ayla cheers him on, saying that with his skills, he's sure to be the top student. The thought of the exam brings out Ares' serious side, and he clutches his hands together, saying he needs to review everything once they get to the inn, and Rand smiles, remarking on how serious he always is. Just then, Ayla looks out the window. "Wait," she says. her tone a little sad. "Looks like our ride's already here. What a shame." His heart sinks a little, because he knows that since Ayla is a princess, he has no idea when she'll be leaving, or when, or even if, they'll get another chance to talk so freely, and he knows he needs to say goodbye properly. He turns to her with a heartfelt, brilliant smile. "Thanks for coming to see me today," he says. "I don't know when the next time will be, but let's hang out again sometime." Ayla's eyes soften, and she smiles warmly, deeply touched by his words. "Thank you," she replies. "I'm glad to hear you say that." Then, a mischievous glint appears in Aries' eyes. "But don't worry about next time," she says with a grin. "I have a plan." Ayla winks and waves as she walks toward her carriage, saying cheerfully, "So, see ya, Aries." Aries waves back, wondering what kind of plan she could possibly have, while beside him, Rand lets out an exhausted sigh after the whirlwind of a reunion. Now that things have finally calmed down, Rand looks at Aries and suggests they head back to the Adventurers Guild. As they get closer to the guild, they notice a large crowd has gathered in the street, and Aries wonders what's causing all the commotion. Peeking through the crowd, Aries spots someone incredibly tall standing in the center of it all. The tall figure turns, sees him, and a huge smile spreads across his face. "Aries!" he shouts, waving, and Aries freezes in shock as the figure starts walking right towards him. Before he can even process what's happening, a strong arm wraps around him, and he lets out a surprised cry. He's lifted completely off the ground in a bone-crushing hug. "You've gotten so big!" the person exclaims, and Aries realizes it's his older brother, who has been waiting for him. Sigurd continues to hug his little brother tightly, and Rand greets him with a smile, saying it's been a long time and he's glad to see him doing well. "Forget about me," Sigurd says, finally setting Aries down only to immediately spin him around. "More importantly, look at Aries. We've heard all about your exploits." Sigurd's eyes are practically spinning with pride and excitement as he lists all of Aries' accomplishments, from developing the territory to all the hard work he's done. "All right," Sigurd declares, his energy overflowing. "Big Brother's gonna treat you to something delicious today, a reward for my hard-working little brother." But Aries is still dizzy from being spun around. Sigurd suddenly lifts Aries onto his shoulders, and both Aries and Rand have a sinking feeling they know exactly where this is going. Both thinking, could it be that? Sigurd points dramatically toward a nearby building and shouts, "Right here!" They enter a lively and welcoming restaurant, filled with adventurers and townspeople all enjoying a good meal. A friendly waitress greets them, and Aries looks up at her from his high perch on Sigurd's shoulders. The waitress, a sweet girl with braided hair named Luna, blushes brightly the moment she sees Sigurd. "Oh, Luna-chan," Sigurd greets her with a charming smile. "Working hard again today? Do you have that?" Luna blushes even harder. "Ah, you mean that," she says, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'll have it ready for you right away." She scurries off toward the kitchen, telling them to please wait at a table. Aries looks on in complete confusion, tapping his chin, while Rand also looks puzzled, and they both wonder what mysterious that Sigurd could have possibly ordered. Sigurd leans forward eagerly, a huge grin on his face. "Aries!" he exclaims. "You're in for a treat. That is absolutely exquisite." A moment later, Luna returns with their order, and as she places a large platter on the table, Aries' eyes go wide, sparkling with pure astonishment as his mouth hangs open and he stammers, This is..." Before him is a beautiful arrangement of glistening, fresh, raw fish. "This is the port town's specialty, sashimi," Sigurd announces proudly, adding that this restaurant is the only place in the entire capital where they can enjoy it, and Aries recognizes the famous dish with complete awe. Aries takes his first bite, and a look of pure bliss spreads across his face. It's even more delicious than he could have possibly imagined, and Sigurd watches him, pleased, asking, "Good, isn't it?" Sigurd then smiles and says something that completely surprises Aries. "But you know," he says, "the reason we can eat this here is actually all thanks to you." And Aries looks up from his plate, a fork in hand, completely confused. The waitress, Luna, smiles warmly and confirms, "Lord Sigurd is exactly right." The patrons at a nearby table overhear and raise their glasses, and one of them explains that because of the ice magic stones that Lord Ares invented, restaurants like this one, which moved from a port town, can now serve perfectly fresh fish far from the sea. Luna bows deeply and gratefully to Ares. "Thanks to you, a lot of people can enjoy sashimi now," she says. "Thank you very much." Ares is completely speechless, his cheeks flushing with surprise and pride because he never knew that his creation was making so many people happy, even all the way in the capital. He looks at the delicious food before him, a warm and powerful feeling swelling in his heart. He created the stones to help his home, but seeing them help people in other places too makes him incredibly glad. Feeling a bit overwhelmed and embarrassed by all the praise, Ares suddenly jumps to his feet and declares, "I'll work hard so I can supply magic stones more consistently," trying to channel his feelings into a new goal, but Sigurd just laughs, teasing him for being so flustered. The two older men, Sigurd and Rand, laugh as they enjoy their drinks, with Rand remarking on how refreshing it is to see such youthful passion, while a drunken Sigurd tells Ares he should be more proud of himself, then notices their food is already gone. Sigurd cheerfully calls for another refill, but Ares, feeling responsible, turns to Luna and sincerely apologizes for his brother's loud behavior. The owner, Luna's father, is overjoyed by their visit and insists that Ares must meet his own father so he can thank him properly for making their business possible, praising Ares for being such a polite kid. Just as they are enjoying the lively atmosphere, a loud, angry shout cuts through all the noise. A large, intimidating man bursts into the restaurant, demanding sashimi and ordering the staff to hurry up. The owner politely informs the man that they have unfortunately sold out for the day. But the man becomes enraged, pointing at their table and yelling about how they are still eating. The owner and Luna exchange a worried glance, and it's clear this is not the first time this man has caused trouble. Trying to calm the situation, the owner promises they will have more fish tomorrow, but the angry man is not at all satisfied. The man's anger finally boils over, and he draws back his fist to punch the owner, who instinctively shields his daughter from the blow. In a flash, Sigurd appears and effortlessly catches the man's fist. Now, take it easy, big brother," he says with a calm but very dangerous smile. The man struggles against Sigurd's grip, shouting, "Who the hell are you?" But Sigurd easily shoves him back. From his seat, Ares calmly points a finger, secretly casting a spell as a swirl of magic forms on the floor beneath the man. Luna and her father watch the confrontation, their eyes wide with both fear and hope. The brutish man suddenly slips and falls hard on a patch of invisible ice, completely caught off guard by the slick surface. Sigurd leans over him with a playful smirk, patting his cheek and asking if he's okay, but the man just tells him to shut up. Utterly humiliated, the man scrambles to his feet and runs out of the restaurant, vowing to get his revenge. The other customers erupt into applause, cheering for Sigurd and thanking him for dealing with the troublemaker. Sigurd laughs it off, telling everyone it was nothing, but Rand watches on, knowing there was much more to it than that. Sigurd gives a subtle, proud smile in his little brother's direction, thinking to himself what a slick move that was, because he knew Ares had handled it with his magic. Ares puffs out his chest with a smug, satisfied grin, very pleased with his secret contribution to the fight. A moment later, Luna approaches Ares shyly. Thanks for earlier," she says softly, and Ares is surprised she noticed, asking if she saw his magic. Her father joins them, placing a proud hand on her shoulder and saying he's glad the young master helped her too, before revealing that Luna has a real talent for magic herself. Sigurd's ears perk up at this, and he ruffles Luna's hair affectionately before announcing that Luna is planning to attend the same academy as Ares, exclaiming that they might get along great. Ares is thrilled to hear he'll have another friend at school. "Is that so? Nice to meet you, Luna," he says warmly, and the shy girl blushes, asking him to please take care of her. As Sigurd goes back to celebrating with the crowd, Luna watches him go, a clear blush on her cheeks and a definite sparkle in her eyes. Ares watches this exchange with a completely blank expression, while Rand, sitting next to him, thoughtfully puts the pieces together. Ares quietly whispers to Rand, and Rand leans in to listen closely. Luna is still blushing as she watches the charismatic Sigurd, who is happily raising his mug with the other patrons. The realization suddenly dawns on Ares, and his eyes sparkle as he whispers to Rand, confirming that they are both thinking the exact same thing. Luna has a massive crush on his brother. At first, Ares is overjoyed, thinking it's wonderful that Luna has such great taste in men and feeling genuinely happy for his brother. But his happiness quickly turns into a comical crisis of brotherly love, and he clutches his head in despair, feeling as if his precious big brother is being stolen away from him. He tries to calm himself down with logic, thinking that his brother is handsome and strong, so it's only natural, before he realizes he's accidentally describing himself. He snaps back to reality, correcting himself aloud that Luna is clearly the victim of his brother's overwhelming charm, but Sigurd and Rand just look at him, completely confused. Ares sighs and looks at his oblivious older brother, remarking on what a charmer he is. But Sigurd has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. After their wonderful meal, the group gets ready to leave, and Luna and her father wave them off with big smiles, asking them to please come again soon. Finally, after a long and eventful day, they head to their inn in the imperial capital. Ares is so tired that he immediately flops face first onto the bed, but as Sigurd stretches, ready to relax, he spots his little brother. He casually tosses a bundle of clothes to Ares, who catches them, looking confused, as Sigurd commands, "Carry this." With a determined grin, Sigurd announces, "All right, let's go." But Ares, still holding the bundle, looks up at him, completely bewildered, and asks, "Where to?" wondering what other adventure his brother has in store for him. It turns out Sigurd's surprise destination is a grand public bathhouse. As they walk in with the other patrons, Ares looks around in awe, exclaiming, "It's so big!" amazed by the magnificent building. Inside the washing area, Sigurd cheerfully instructs Ares to wash his body thoroughly before getting into the hot water, but Ares is more concerned with his brother's lack of a towel, telling him to cover himself up. The bathhouse is a steamy paradise, filled with muscular men relaxing and washing, and it's a lively place full of adventurers unwinding after a hard day's work. Ares sits on a small stool, dutifully scrubbing his hair with soap, looking a bit small compared to everyone else around him. He glances over at his brother and is completely amazed, because Sigurd is incredibly muscular and well-built, and Ares can't help but admire how strong his big brother looks. Ares looks down at his own arm and gives it a little pinch, feeling very small and soft compared to Sigurd's powerful physique. He looks around and realizes that it's not just his brother. Almost every man in the bathhouse, most of them adventurers, is incredibly buff and strong. Feeling a little out of place, Ares quickly finishes washing, and just as he's about to head to the bath, he spots an older man who looks perfectly normal, and he feels a deep sense of relief. But as the old man stands up, Ares's jaw drops, because the normal old man is actually the most muscular person in the entire room, with a body that looks like it was carved from stone. Sigurd is also impressed, exclaiming that the old-timer is in fantastic shape. But Ares is just in shock. Another unbelievably strong person. The old man and Sigurd exchange a firm handshake, each complimenting the other's impressive physique. Soon, a crowd of other muscular men, including Rand, gathers around them, all admiring each other's strength and dedication. The bathhouse quickly turns into a friendly festival of flexing, with all the strong men laughing and comparing muscles. Ares stands on the outside of the happy, muscular crowd, feeling like he's entered a completely different world. He finally slips into the warm, soothing water of the large bath, letting out a happy sigh. And despite the shock, he thinks to himself that the imperial capital is truly an amazing place. The next morning, Ares is sleeping soundly in his bed at the inn, dreaming of the day's past adventures. Suddenly, Sigurd bursts into the room and shakes him awake, shouting, "Wake up!" A sleepy Ares sits up, and Sigurd asks him if there's still some time before the entrance exam, and Ares confirms that there is. A huge, mischievous grin spreads across Sigurd's face as he realizes this means he gets to spend all his time with his little brother until the exam finally begins. The two brothers cheer loudly, excited for the days of fun ahead of them, and so they spend the next few days having the absolute time of their lives, exploring the city, shopping, studying, and even having playful sword fights. One day, while they're relaxing in their room, Ares asks what the plan is, and Sigurd looks out the window with a knowing smile, saying a special guest should be arriving any time now. Just as he says that, Ayla appears at their window, having climbed up the side of the inn. Ares, she announces with a grin, I'm here to pick you up. She gracefully leaps into the room, declaring that the climb was a complete piece of cake for her. Before Ares can even react, Ayla scoops him up into her arms, declaring happily, We're headed for a bright future, while Ares is completely flustered by her boundless energy, and Sigurd just waves goodbye. From the street below, her attendants shout in a panic, but Ayla completely ignores them, running off with Ares still in her arms. She dashes through the city streets with a royal carriage struggling to follow, leaving a very confused Ares wondering what on earth is going on. They soon arrive at a breathtakingly large and beautiful mansion, and as the carriage pulls up, Ares stares, completely speechless at the sight. A familiar figure with long silver hair greets them at the entrance. It's Xenos, the Emperor, and he gives Ares a kind smile, apologizing for making him come all this way. Inside, Ares and Ayla sit on a luxurious sofa across from Xenos, and Ares is still very nervous, unsure why he has been summoned to such an incredible place. Xenos looks at Ares warmly. First of all, it's been a long time, Ares, he says. You've grown so much. I hardly recognized you. He expresses his confidence that Ares will have no trouble with the entrance exam in a few days, then continues, Once your admission is decided and you're officially a student, I want you to live in this mansion with Ayla as her bodyguard. The request is so completely unexpected that Ares can only let out a stunned, huh? Ares immediately gets flustered, questioning if he's really qualified to be a bodyguard and blushing at the very idea of a boy and girl living together. Xenos holds up a hand, his expression suddenly serious. I have a request about that, he says, cutting off Ares' stammering. He looks directly into Ares' eyes and makes an absolutely unbelievable proposal. Ayla's, I want you to be her fiancé. The words hit Ares with the force of a lightning bolt. So, fiancé? He yelps, his face turning completely red. His mind spins with confusion. He doesn't even know what being a fiancé really means, and he worries about what Ayla must be thinking of all this. He turns to look at her, and his heart stops, because Ayla is blushing beautifully, her eyes soft and a gentle, happy smile on her face. In that one moment, Ares understands everything. Her happy expression is her answer, and he is so shocked and overwhelmed that he can't even form words. A silent scream echoes through his mind as the unbelievable truth of the situation finally crashes down on him. Meanwhile, back in their peaceful home territory, Hilda is casually wondering what Ares is up to, and Sheila smiles, certain that he must be having a great time with Sai. Hilda then starts to tease, laughing that her little brother has probably already found a girlfriend in the big city, and the two women giggle together. But their laughter quickly fades as they, along with Gray, consider the possibility seriously, and their expressions turn stern, a silent agreement passing between them. Absolutely no way. Their thoughts are interrupted by a knock on the study door, and Gray tells Elise to come in. Elise enters and bows politely, and Sheila asks her what's wrong. To their surprise, Elise remains bowed and simply says, I have a request. She then lowers herself completely to the floor in a deep, formal bow, and a concerned Sheila kneels beside her, urging her to please get up and tell them what she needs. Elise looks up, her face calm and completely determined. I would like to, she begins, her voice steady, request a leave of absence. The unexpected request leaves the entire family in silent shock. The scene opens with a flustered but happy Ares sitting beside Ayla on the couch, thinking to himself, I, Ares Mist, at the age of 8, have gotten engaged, and it looks like we're going to be living together. The reality of the situation is just beginning to sink in. Xenos explains the reason for his sudden proposal, telling them that the titles of fiancé and guard are really just formalities, because with Ayla being an imperial princess and Ares being the only known user of his unique ice magic, they are both prime targets for people with bad intentions. He clarifies that the engagement acts as an official reason for them to be together, creating a clear warning to any potential enemies and allowing them to be protected more easily. And Ares listens intently. the logic making perfect sense to him as he says, I see, finally understanding. Ares glances over at Ayla, who is blushing with little hearts floating around her, and he wonders why she seems so unusually enthusiastic about this very practical arrangement. But he thinks he's figured out the reason. A wave of emotion hits him, so powerful it actually causes a nosebleed because he is deeply moved, believing that Ayla is putting on this happy act just to support their plan and protect him, and the word friendship glows brightly in his mind. Filled with a renewed sense of purpose, Ares stands up and makes a noble declaration, proclaiming, I want to protect my precious friend too. I'll do whatever it takes, even if it means pretending to be your fiancé. I understand. I accept this proposal. Xenos smiles, pleased with Ares's passionate and slightly misunderstood acceptance, and says, Thank you. I'll be in your care from now on. Ares and Ayla sit side by side again, with Ares still fired up about protecting his friend, while Ayla is lost in a happy, romantic daze, and Xenos watches them, thinking that while they seem to be on completely different pages, the end result is the same. Just then, Xenos adds an important detail, saying, Also, I should mention that Ares will be living in the detached house, not here in the main mansion, and both children let out a surprised, Eh? Ayla's romantic dreams are instantly crushed, and she begins to cry about her newlywed life being over before it even started, while Xenos chuckles, teasing her for getting ahead of herself as Ares watches from the back, confused by her strong reaction. Ayla quickly bounces back, and with her enthusiasm completely restored, she suggests showing Ares to the detached house, and he eagerly agrees. Xenos leads them out of the main mansion and toward a charming, smaller house on the property, telling Ares this is the way. Ayla joyfully gives Ares a tour of his new home, excitedly pointing out the kitchen, the bath, and the bedrooms upstairs. She proudly tells him that she helped with the cleaning, so he'd better be grateful, and Ares smiles warmly and thanks her. Ayla then asks Ares if he's free after this, clearly ready for their next adventure together, and he confirms that he is. Back in the main mansion, Xenos watches them from the window and sighs, wondering if the two energetic children are ever coming back. Outside, the sound of sparring can be heard because Ayla, full of excitement, has challenged Ares to a duel, and Xenos looks on, surprised by their intensity. A knock sounds at the door, and Xenos tells them to enter, his eyes still glued on the sparring children. A familiar figure steps inside, and Xenos greets them with a smile, saying it has been a long time and he's been waiting. In the garden, the mock battle is fierce, and Ayla is much faster and stronger than before, causing Ares to compliment her, amazed at how much her movements have improved. I'm just getting started, Ayla declares, planting her feet firmly on the ground. In a sudden burst of speed, she lunges forward, her wooden sword aimed directly at Ares. Ares is completely caught off guard by her sudden acceleration, barely managing to react in time. He realizes she used earth magic to launch herself forward from her feet, a clever new tactic he's never seen her use before. He can tell she has been training incredibly hard to get this strong, also she wouldn't lose to him. Now facing a much stronger opponent, Ares wonders what his next move should be. Suddenly, a voice from behind him offers advice, suggesting he watch the flow of her mana to predict her attacks, and Ares exclaims, I get it now, Elise, his confidence returning. He turns to see their maid, Elise, standing calmly behind him and asks in surprise, Elise, what are you doing here? Elise explains that her master, Gray, has granted her some time off, and Ares asks if she came to the capital for a trip. With a small, content smile, Elise announces that starting today, she will be looking after Lord Ares right here. But Ares is shocked, asking if she's sure she doesn't want a real day off. Elise's expression softens as she looks at Ares, saying gently, Taking care of Lord Ares is like a vacation for me. She turns to Ayla and informs her that while she'll mostly be at the detached house, Lady Ayla should not hesitate to call on her for anything, and a slightly flustered Ayla thanks her. Elise then claps her hands together, her demeanor shifting from a gentle maid to a strict trainer. Now then, she says, since you both seem so full of energy, until the day of Lord Ares' entrance exam, we shall undergo special training every single day. The two children stare in horror as their fun is immediately replaced with a grueling training schedule. And so, their grueling days began, and soon after, Sigurd joined them, and the four of them trained relentlessly from morning until night. During a sword-fighting session, Sigurd's powerful strike clashes with Ares' training sword, and Ares cries out as he struggles to block the heavy blow. "Ares," Sigurd says, "isn't that sword already falling apart?" And Ares looks down to see that his beloved wooden sword is indeed cracked and worn. Ares explains that he's taken good care of it because it was a special gift from his brother, and Sigurd is touched, but tells him it's probably time to replace it. Sigurd and Ares announce to Elise that they are heading out for a bit, and she understands, while a very tired Ayla continues her magic training in the background. Once the boys are gone, Elise suggests that she and Ayla take a short break, but her idea of a break is to pull out a huge stack of books and announce the start of their regularly scheduled Ares Sama fan meeting, much to Ayla's absolute delight. Meanwhile, Sigurd takes Ares to a blacksmith's forge, and as they approach, the heat from the workshop washes over them. "Big bro, where are we?" Ares asks, and Sigurd calls out for the blacksmith. A stout man with a magnificent beard appears at the door. It's the dwarf blacksmith, Lord Play, and he grumbles at Sigurd, asking why he's still in town. Sigurd cheerfully explains he's leaving tomorrow and introduces his little brother, Ares, and Ares is completely starstruck, realizing it's his first time seeing a real dwarf. The blacksmith recognizes Ares' name. "Ho, so you're the one who found those ice magic stones," he says with a grin. "We use them here too. Thanks a lot." The blacksmith correctly guesses that Sigurd is there to say goodbye and to commission a new sword for his brother. Ares shows him the worn-out wooden sword, and the blacksmith takes it and examines it closely, noting how well cared for it is. He looks at Ares with knowing eyes. It's definitely time for a replacement, but the truth is, you don't really want to let it go, do you? And Ares is surprised that he can tell. The blacksmith taps the sword and says proudly, "I'm a blacksmith. I can tell just by looking at it." Ares internally struggles with his feelings, knowing Sigurd is right. If he wants to protect himself and others, he needs a proper weapon, and he can't keep using a practice sword just because he's attached to it. The dwarf blacksmith, Lord Ply, strokes his magnificent beard and looks at Sigurd with a knowing smirk, commenting on how much Sigurd cares for his little brother before giving a gruff sigh and saying, "Fine, I'll do it." His eyes suddenly sharpen with a craftsman's fire as he gets a brilliant idea, proposing, "How about we use this old sword as a base to forge a brand new one?" Explaining that this way, Ares can inherit the sword's spirit and have a weapon strong enough to survive any crisis. Ares and Sigurd's faces light up with pure, unadulterated joy because the idea of transforming the precious gift into a real, powerful sword is more than they could have ever hoped for. The blacksmith gives a confident, toothy grin and declares, "Then it's settled, the deal officially made." He turns to head back into his forge, telling them to come back in about a week to pick it up, and as he walks away, Ares watches in awe, completely impressed by the blacksmith's cool and professional vibe. After leaving the workshop, the two brothers spend the rest of the day having fun shopping, picking out souvenirs for their family back home. The next day, it's finally time for Sigurd to leave, and he waves goodbye with a bright, encouraging smile, calling out, "See ya, Ares! Good luck on the exam!" And with that, Ares' big brother began his journey back to their territory. As Ares waves goodbye, Elise and Ayla are right there with him, and Elise is especially emotional, shouting goodbyes and reminders for Sigurd to take care of everyone, while Ares looks incredibly embarrassed by her loud send-off. Ayla giggles beside him and says, "Heck, you two really are close siblings." But Ares is still blushing, trying to recover. Ayla's expression suddenly becomes thoughtful. "Come to think of it, I haven't told you yet, Ares," she says. "I have a younger brother, too." Ares is surprised. He remembers learning about a prince in his studies, but never realized it was her brother. And Ayla confirms it, explaining that he's a year younger and very shy. She then realizes something important. "Come to think of it, he's starting school this year, too," she muses. "Maybe we'll even end up in the same class." Back in his new room, Elise serves Ares a cup of tea, and he takes it with a smile, feeling hopeful as he says, "I hope we can get along," excited about the idea of meeting the young prince. As he sips his tea, he thinks about how it will be his first time really talking to a boy his own age. But that happy thought quickly turns to worry, because he's just a boy his age. What should he even talk about? A wave of anxiety hits him as he realizes he's barely had a proper conversation with another kid in either of his lives, and he desperately wants to be friends with the prince, but has absolutely no idea how. He tries to calm himself down, remembering he talked to Luna just fine, so it will probably be okay, but his thoughts are interrupted by Elise and Ayla bringing in a cake to wish him luck on the exam. That night, tucked into bed, he continues to tell himself over and over again that it will all be fine. And then, the day of the exam finally arrived. Aries finds himself in a large waiting hall at the academy, surrounded by dozens of other kids, and he's never been around so many people his own age before, so he feels incredibly nervous, hugging his knees to his chest. An exam proctor stands at the front of the room, calling for quiet before instructing the students to answer when their name is called. Aries Mistelkun, the proctor calls out, and Aries jumps in surprise, quickly answering, Yes! As he looks up, his eyes meet those of a boy standing nearby, a quiet, shy-looking boy with light-colored hair. The boy blushes slightly as he looks at Aries, a look of complete awe in his eyes as he thinks to himself, Is that my sister's fiancé? Back in the home territory, Sigurd finally arrives home, shouting joyfully, I'm back, my homeland! His family rushes out to greet him, their faces full of love and tears as they welcome him home. Sheila and Hilda tackle him in a massive hug, lifting him right off the ground with surprising strength. Hilda holds on tight, her expression deadly serious as she says, As I thought, there's no trace of Aries left. Clearly a little jealous of all the time he got to spend with her precious little brother, and Sigurd just pleads for a break from her intense, sisterly love.